Chapter 201, From Red Events to White Events. Brother Zhang, you can't do this. The Wood Commander dashed over, shouting as he saw his backer about to abandon him. Only then did Zhang Li remember that there was indeed a commander surnamed Wood in the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace only has 5 members in the body integration realm. If I'm gone, it would only be 4 members left. Thank you for teaching me that 5 minus 1 is 4. Zhang Li expressed his sincerity. The Imperial Palace is a neutral organization. Once you join the Imperial Palace, you have to sever ties with your original power. Conversely, if a member of the Imperial Palace joins another power, they will automatically lose their status as a member of the Imperial Palace. However, there are always exceptions. For instance, if Zhang Li announced he was going to marry into the Jiyu tribe, everyone wouldn't see it as Zhang Li leaving the Imperial Palace to join the Jiyu tribe, they would see it as the Jiyu tribe joining the Imperial Palace. I've made contributions for the Imperial Palace. I've shed blood for the Imperial Palace. Brother Zhang, you must save me. The Wood Commander was not lying. Despite the unreliable performance of the several body integration realm commanders of the Imperial Palace, they were all veterans who had served the previous human emperor, risked their lives to resist the attacks of the heavenly demon, and nearly lost their lives. How could I marry a woman I've never met? Wood Commander vowed to heaven. From now on, he would never mingle with low-level practitioners again. The way you say it makes our clan leader sound ugly. The high priest used his divine sense to construct the image of the Jiyu tribe's clan leader, a woman with a ravishing face and voluptuous body, wearing the lazy smile often seen on mature women. Sorry, I take back my vows. Wood Commander hurriedly retracts his words. Alright, we never met. Everything is fate. As cultivators, we should follow the will of heaven. Wood Commander clenched his teeth and agreed to the marriage. According to the high priest, the clan leader and the chosen girls did not appear in the Jiyu immortal secret realm. How did they contract the love Jiyu? The high priest explained. The human emperor is unaware, the love Jiyu is difficult to cultivate, even for our Jiyu tribe it is a rarity. Therefore, the rules of the Jiyu tribe stipulate that the most outstanding woman of the same generation can cultivate the love Jiyu, to bind a lover. There was no problem with this initially. After all, there hadn't been anyone who could break through the last barrier of the Jiyu immortal secret realm and receive the final reward for many years. Who would have thought that this time, 2 of them would emerge? Qin Luan, our young friend, was the first one to pass the test and receive the love Jiyu which binds him to the girl. Wood Commander was the second one to pass the test, and got the love Jiyu that binds him to the clan leader. So, are there any more love Gus if someone else breaks through the last barrier? The high priest affirmed. Yes, the most outstanding woman of our previous generation is still here. Where is the clan leader? Zhang Li used his divine sense but didn't find any female who matched the image provided by the high priest in the Jiyu tribe. She left the tribe. What? She said that it was time for the Jiyu tribe to come out of seclusion and that it was necessary to explore the outside world. Following these words, she left the Jiyu tribe, and no one knows her whereabouts. It has been half a year. Oh, I'm familiar with that. Your clan leader has the same style as our hall master. He never stays in the Imperial Palace. Words slipped out of Wood Commander's mouth, and a chill ran down his spine. He suddenly remembered that the hall master he was just talking about was right here. Bro Zhang, I didn't mean it that way. Wood Commander stuttered. Don't be scared, I'm not upset. Zhang Li grinned and patted Wood Commander's shoulder. I just want to see how a body integration realm member would explode if a marriage doesn't take place within 10 days. Wood Commander suddenly realized what was going on. Whether it is a wedding or severing the love Jiyu, firstly, it's required for the person to exist. Now that the clan leader has disappeared, isn't he doomed? Wood Commander was not calm anymore. The hearts of the Jiyu tribe people were too big, they weren't even planning on looking for their missing clan leader. Aren't you guys taking any measures when we can at least contact the human emperor using the remote communication talisman? Haha, don't worry. Seeing Wood Commander's injured state, the high priest laughed. Before our clan leader left, she left behind a life Jiyu and tracking Jiyu. The life Jiyu guarantees that the clan leader is alive, and the tracking Jiyu allows us at any time to find the location of our clan leader. Wood Commander was still not at ease. He didn't have much understanding of magical insects, and couldn't be convinced by only based on the words of the high priest. Come, I will take you guys to the clan leader's bamboo loft. The Jiyu tribe's houses consisted of 2-story bamboo lofts. The loft is elevated to prevent ground moisture, and the bottom part is typically not for dwelling, it's reserved for livestock rearing. The living quarters are upstairs. On reaching the second floor of the bamboo loft, the high priest introduced, "Please look, this is the life GU, it's still alive, which means our clan leader is safe. And this is the tracking GU, it's also alive. You can find the clan leader anytime you want." The high priest proudly showed off the magical insects. While he was speaking, both the magical insects died simultaneously. The high priest and wood commander nearly had their eyes pop out in shock. "Is the clan leader dead? Am I going to die?" Both blurted out words, although different, they both inferred the answers from the situation at hand. Zhongli blinked, wondering why the insects had died so suddenly. At that moment, Commander Lu was calling Zhongli, and Zhongli answered the remote communication talisman. "Hall Master, you asked me earlier how much gift money you should give when you attend a subordinate's wedding. Given that very few commanders of our imperial palace get married, the most recent ones were the two commanders Ma Zhou, but that was also hundreds of years ago. Further considering the issue of inflation, the variances in customs across 9 states, I did the math, and you probably need." "Oh, no need, there's been a change in circumstances. Let's prepare a banquet for the whole palace. Also get a tombstone ready, use good material, do not skimp on the spirit stones, it's for Wood Commander. Engrave this epitaph. In life, he was heavier than Mount Tai, in death, he was lighter than a feather." Quote. Also, although the GU tribe has nothing to do with the Imperial Palace, and Wood Commander did not get married to the GU tribe's clan leader, they did share an engaged couple's affinity. If the GU tribe comes out of seclusion in the future, we should take care of them in remembrance of Wood Commander's spirit in heaven. Commander Lu looked at Wood Commander, who was still alive and standing next to him, noted Zhongli's words, and ended the communication. "All right, stop gaping, things aren't as serious as you think." Zhongli laughed. He had just been joking with Commander Lu earlier. Given Commander Lu's wisdom, he could certainly tell that he was joking and wouldn't really prepare those things. If the clan leader of the GU tribe were truly dead, wouldn't Wood Commander have exploded immediately instead of being unscathed till now? Even if Zhongli didn't understand magical insects, he understood the logic of an immortal. An immortal would surely cultivate a love GU to relate to the host's life, otherwise, if someone isn't happy about being forcefully married off by the immortal, wouldn't they just kill the woman involved? If the clan leader dies, the love GU within her would also die. If the love GU on one side dies, it would activate a curse on the other side that would make the host explode. Since Wood Commander is still alive, the clan leader must not have died. Both the High Priest and Wood Commander were too worried to figure this out for a moment. Zhongli, who was just an outsider, had figured it out as soon as he saw the two insects die. The High Priest, being a member of the GU tribe, also figured it out. The clan leader should still be alive, but she must have been struck by the restriction GU or severing insect-type techniques, hence the two insects died. Typically, magical insects wouldn't experience this kind of situation. These two insects are special as their lives completely depend on their master. If the master does not provide energy, they would die instantly. Chapter 202, Furious Demon Cultivator. Although the GU clan leader was alive, the disconnection of her life and trace GU was certainly not voluntary, indicating something major had happened to her. To forestall Captain Mu's potential explosion, Zhongli decided it would be best to locate the GU clan leader as soon as possible. Tracking someone wasn't limited to the use of trace GU. Zhongli could also use the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal's power of causality to do so, or directly deploy his divine sense to scan the entirety of the Witch Country territories. Since the GU clan leader had left the clan to seek a future for it, she would likely mostly move within the territories of the Great and Lesser Witch Countries. The combined area of both Witch Countries was the size of an entire empire, which Zhongli's divine sense could feasibly cover. However, finding someone was a meticulous task that required both range and precision, forcing Zhongli to narrow down the scope of his divine sense to increase its accuracy. The Great Witch Country number. The Lesser Witch Country lay in a small town at the foot of its mountain, everyone's dead, and she's under someone's control. Zhongli quickly found the GU clan leader in a remote town within the Lesser Witch Country. She was indeed a beauty, even more attractive than the High Priest's projection of her. Because she was so beautiful, the culprit who captured her didn't immediately kill her. Instead, he harbored ulterior motives, planning to do unspeakable things. This delay provided ample time for Zhongli and his group to arrive. But what puzzled Zhongli was the tranquility worn on every corpse in the town. It looked as if they were merely asleep. What had happened? This is a great humiliation to me. I've wasted a month because of you, you deceived my time, my affections, and now you'll pay with your life. The villain roared at the GU clan leader as if she had wronged him in some way. But when he saw the stunning face of the GU clan leader, he smirked. But before you die, I should make good use of you and have some fun. When Zhongli, carrying Captain Mew and the High Priest, arrived, the villain hadn't even managed to remove his pants yet. In broad daylight, such a brazen scum. Captain Mew kicked the villain into the wall, half of his body still outside, half inside. Wife, are you okay? Captain Mew hurriedly turned to the GU clan leader. The GU clan leader glared at Captain Mew. If not restrained, she would certainly have slapped him twice. Even if he was her savior, she couldn't be forced into giving her body to him. What a bizarre day. Everyone seemed to have something to do with her. The attire of the lesser witch country was not as revealing as that of the GU clan. To blend in, the clan leader had changed her clothes, which ironically made her even more attractive. Aish, he may really be your future fiancé. The high priest tried to awkwardly explain to the GU clan leader, releasing her restraints. Her restraints were laid by the villain. The high priest's cultivation was not high enough to remove them, and considering Captain Mu's poor impression on her, it was ultimately Zhongli who did it. Zhong, the human emperor. Aish gasped in horror. No matter what, she did not expect the human emperor to appear there. The villain stuck in the gap in the wall tried to retaliate but ran off immediately upon hearing Aishi's exclamation. However, right under the scrutiny of a divine transformation stage cultivator and a Mahayana stage cultivator, there was no way he could escape, not even needing Zhongli to capture him. Captain Mew got him. Thinking of running away, you prolific murderer and evil cultivator. Captain Mew said coldly, tens of thousands have died in this town, and it must be your doing. To Captain Mew, the evil aura wafting off the villain was blatant, as if he were a candle flame in the dark, practically wearing a sign on his face saying, "One am a demon cultivator." Looking at the corpses all over town, if they weren't victims of this demon cultivator, Captain Mew would relinquish his leadership and be with Aish. Misunderstanding. The villain hastily pleaded for mercy. Seeing the livid expression of the captain, he knew he'd have no chance to explain if he didn't speak up now. He thought, was it a bad day to go out? As a demon cultivator, encountering the captain of the Imperial Palace and the human emperor, how could he possibly survive? It was she who killed all of the townsfolk. The villain pointed at Aish. They were all dead before I came. The matter of this town has absolutely nothing to do with me. I beg you to see the truth. With sufficient abilities to control Aish, who was at the nascent soul stage, this demon cultivator was not a low-level cultivator, he was a god transformation stage cultivator. Nevertheless, standing before Zhongli and Captain Mew, he was a mere novice. What's going on? Zhongli's expression became serious. Tens of thousands of people dying was not a trivial matter. Aish knew not to joke about this matter and provided a detailed account of incidents. Your Majesty, you may recall, as the High Priest has said, that I left the GU clan in search of a future for it. This task has not been easy, and I've been circling around the Great and Lesser Witch country for 3 months, with no idea what to do once the GU clan re-emerges. Fortunately, I encountered a disciple of the corpse-driving sect. When they found out I was the leader of the GU clan, they were excited to introduce me to their sect master. The sect master of the corpse-driving sect explained that he had long heard of the unrivaled GU of the GU clan and had a desire to visit us. However, considering the secluded nature of our clan and the difficulty in finding us, he didn't want to be intrusive. The sect master wished to cooperate with the GU clan, and integrate the corpse-driving technique with the GU, creating a more exquisite corpse-driving technique. They even ensured that the corpse-driving sect would guarantee the safety of the GU clan once we emerged. Rather than rashly agreeing, I proposed a trial collaboration first. I advanced some GU techniques related to levels, allowing the corpse-driving sect to teach me a few of their corpse-driving techniques. I found a desolate town and painstakingly sourced corpses which I controlled with GU, also combining with the corpse-driving technique to continuously build up experience and improve methods to demonstrate the superiority of GU over the corpse-driving technique, thereby securing an advantageous position in future collaborations. I also made certain achievements, and my mastery of GU has greatly improved. However, a man arrived in town about a month ago. At first, I didn't pay him any attention since the town, though remote, wasn't completely isolated from the rest of the world. But out of nowhere, this man, without reason or warning, suddenly attacked me. It wasn't until then that I realized he was a demon cultivator and at the divinity transformation stage at that. He sealed my vital entry points, interrupting the link between me and the GU, causing them to lose control and go dormant. The corpses, no longer controlled by the GU, all fell down and simulates the situation you saw. If you hadn't come to rescue me, I don't know what could have happened. Aish shook her head slightly, unable to continue speaking. To prove her words were convincing, Aish stood up again and regained control of the GU. The fallen corpses rose, murmurs resumed, and people moved in and out once again. Everyone around seemed completely unaware that they were already dead. The town regained its former prosperity and peace. The way the corpses behaved was indistinguishable from normal people. To the high priest's surprise, he could not even tell that they were being controlled by the GU. During her half-year journey, the clan leader had far surpassed him in the field of GU. The demon cultivator regretted. It was because these dead people were no different from the living ones that he had wasted a month here. Chapter 203. The one who takes 50 steps laughs at the one who takes 100 steps. This demon cultivator dared to guarantee that no other demon cultivator has ever encountered a situation like his. Unlike the ancient times when they were once dominant and rampant, nowadays demon cultivators hold a very precarious position. With the concerted cleanup efforts of the Imperial Palace and various major powers, the demon cultivators were on the brink of extinction. Most of their inheritances were seized as spoils of war and stored in the Imperial Palace. As long as a sufficient number of people were killed, a demon cultivator could rapidly level up. His cultivation reached the divinity transformation stage by killing a few here and burying a few more there. Though he appeared glorious as a divinity transformation stage demon cultivator, he felt more like a homeless dog who didn't even dare to venture into bustling places. As you can imagine, he was ecstatic when he came across this small town. This demon cultivator felt that heaven must have pitied him and had bestowed this small town upon him. In his eyes, the inhabitants of the town were not humans, but rather his future cultivation improvements. Surviving to the present day meant that every single demon cultivator was cautious. He was worried that the disappearance of such a large town would attract attention from the Imperial Palace, leading to his inevitable death. As such, he didn't take action immediately. Instead, he disguised himself as a traveler, living cautiously while investigating the situation of the town. He designated himself as a middle-aged man with no family, just looking for a place to earn his livelihood. Thus, he found a job at a restaurant, and the owner happily allowed him to work there as a waiter. Restaurants are usually the hub of information, and being a waiter made it easy for him to gather intelligence. For an entire month, he put his heart and soul into his performance, trying his best to blend in as a real waiter. Finally, he found out that the town was almost isolated from the outside world. The only nascent soul stage being was the mayor of the town. It seemed that even if everyone in the town died, no one would notice. What a blessing! The demon cultivator was overjoyed, unable to contain his excitement. He planned to sacrifice the entire town in order to advance his cultivation. Consequently, he set up a blood sacrifice array that would surely kill everyone below the golden core stage. As expected, all the residents were dead. The idea that he could improve his cultivation through blood sacrifice was ludicrous. It was only after the failed blood sacrifice that the demon cultivator realized that there was not a single living soul in the town, only corpses. The town mayor's necromancy was so sophisticated that even he, at the divinity transformation stage, failed to notice anything unusual. He had been living foolishly with corpses for a whole month, even painstakingly collecting information and setting up the blood sacrifice array. Recalling the hardships he had suffered over the past month, the demon cultivator felt that he was a joke and that it was an insult to his intelligence. If word of all this got out, he would not be able to show his face in the Jianghu anymore. No, on second thought, the demon cultivator realized that if it were known that he was a demon cultivator, it wouldn't matter whether he could mingle anymore. The question would be whether he could survive at all. Despite hundreds of years of being cautious, he was still infuriated. He was determined to trap Aisu and put her in a situation where she would have no way out. However, considering Aisu's good looks, he decided to have his way with her first. Unfortunately, before he could even undress, he was kicked aside by Captain. Without needing the demon cultivator's confession, Zhongli guessed his intentions right after listening to Aisu's recount. It could only be said that Aisu's cadaver-controlling techniques were excellent. Aisu hadn't killed anyone, nor had she been raped. Only then did Captain Mu calm down. While Captain Mu found his fiancée, Aisu found a way out for her family, and the demon cultivator found death. Everyone had their own bright futures. Demon cultivators who reached the divinity transformation stage were stained with the blood of countless innocent souls. Once a demon cultivator fell into the hands of the Imperial Palace, there was no way he would be spared. Captain Mu, this man is yours. I believe he might still be in contact with more demon cultivators. Maybe, you can even uncover a whole string of them. Zhongli assumed that this demon cultivator had some connection with other demon cultivators which might unravel a bigger secret. As for how Captain Mew would proceed, that was not something he needed to bother about. Captain Mew accepted the task. After all, he was well experienced in such things. So you mean, as I have passed the GU immortal trial and I have a love GU within me that connects me to you, you really are my fiancé? Having listened to the High Priest's account, Isu looked at Captain Mew with mixed emotions. She didn't expect to be away from the GU clan for half a year and suddenly have a fiancé sprung upon her. However, the will of the GU fairy is absolute. As a member of the GU clan, she cannot defy the GU fairy. Moreover, this man is indeed strong and handsome, which fits Aishu's fantasy of her future husband. But the thought of having to marry upon their first meeting, as though being forcibly thrust into the bridal chamber, always left her with an unsettling feeling. No, I think the actions of the GU fairy are wrong. The feelings between two people are pure. How can a love bug be used for a binding connection? Wood Leader spoke with stern righteousness. He was certainly moved by Ayisu, but saying that there was a love bug in his body that would explode if they didn't enter the bridal chamber, was not the conduct of a gentleman. Marrying using a love bug was a joke, and he, the Wood Leader, had his limits. The Wood Leader thought that the GU fairy must have been heartbroken by a man, which was why she came up with the idea of the love bug that creates grudges between the sexes. Am I not attractive? Ayisu didn't expect Wood Leader to actually respond that way, leaving her with a complicated feeling. Even if she offered herself up, he wouldn't take it. Did she have no charm in his eyes? Attractive. Wood Leader nodded sincerely. Among the women I have met, you are the most beautiful. Wait, there is Saint Pure Heart at the forefront. Second prettiest. No, that's not right, there's also Empress Yu Yin. Third prettiest. No, Mistress Mo of Penglai Fairy Island also ranks ahead. Finally, Wood Leader said with precision, among the women I've met, you are the fourth prettiest. He thinks this is a sincere compliment to Ayisu, and that she should be very happy with it. The demon cultivator knew he was doomed to die. His heart should be filled with sorrow, but upon hearing Wood Leader's response, he laughed honestly, which drew Wood Leader's angry glare. Zhongli thought it was lucky that Wood Leader had not seen the Fairy of Red Dust or Great Dream Resident, otherwise Aishu's ranking would be even farther back. At the same time, he laughed inwardly. With this emotional intelligence, could he actually pursue a girl? Zhongli thought that no one liked him, otherwise, with his emotional intelligence, wouldn't it be easy to find a wife and start a family? Seeing Zhongli laugh, the High Priest knew he looked down on Wood Leader's answer, and asked curiously, if Zhong, the human emperor, was in Wood Leader's position, what would his response be? This was the strongest cultivator in the 9th state, so he had to ask as many questions as possible opportunity to gain something. Zhongli played the role of a teacher, analyzing for the High Priest. Girls like to hear insincere words, so you must never tell them the truth. Zhongli thought his logic was coherent. He did think Ayisu was attractive, but not the most attractive, and girls definitely couldn't handle the truth. With that being the case, the answer was obvious. I would say directly that she is not attractive. The High Priest was taken aback as if he had just met Zhong, the human emperor. His answer greatly differed from the High Priest's expectations. So this is the response of someone at the Mahayana realm, it really is unexpected. The High Priest had a moment of enlightenment. No wonder he had been stuck at the nascent soul stage without any progress, the gap in their mindsets was too great. He thought he should learn from Zhong, the human emperor's attitude, which would definitely help him break through the nascent soul stage and reach the divinity transformation stage in the future. Zhongli enthusiastically stepped forward to ask, do you need me to help you to sever the love bug connection? Sever. We must sever, Ayisu said. Sever, with gritted teeth, unclear whether she wanted to sever the love bug or something else. Zhongli, with a smile on his face, used the heart sword to easily cut off the love bugs in Wood Leader and Aishu's bodies. Wood Leader didn't even have a chance to react. He lamented once more that if Zhongli was an enemy, then killing him would be too easy. Why did Ayisu respond that way? Did he say something wrong? Wood Leader was in a complete fog. Wood Leader didn't understand much about relations between men and women, so he decided to find an opportunity to ask Zhongli for advice. Chapter 204. Truth, Lies, Praise. Aguna decided to depart with Qin Luan and others to roam the 9 provinces. Before leaving, she went to say goodbye to her parents, only to find her father kneeling at the entrance of the house, head bowed, as if he had done something wrong. Dad, why are you kneeling at the gate? Why don't you come in? She asked. Your mother, without any reason, got angry suddenly. She commanded me to roll out of the house. She said I can't come back in unless I accept my mistakes, he answered. The high priest's wife was also at the nascent soul stage, and her combat abilities were recognized as the best among the Gu clan. Confronted with such a domineering wife, the high priest had no choice but to respectfully leave. Did you say something to mom? Aguna couldn't understand. In her impression, her parents were very affectionate towards each other and never quarreled. Why would this happen today? The human emperor Zhongli once mentioned, women dislike hearing the truth, so never speak the truth to them. So, when I got home, I said the exact opposite of what I genuinely wanted to say. I told your mother she was the ugliest woman I've ever seen and that marrying her was the worst tragedy of my life. I deeply regret it. Aguna was silent. Don't worry, Zhongli must have anticipated this scenario. This is his test for me. The high priest was kneeling on the ground, full of confidence. The high priest of the Gu clan is selected through the Gu immortal secret realm, and the selection criteria have always been a mystery for the Gu clan. Aguna suddenly realized the criteria for selecting the high priest. There is a legend that the Gu immortal acts impulsively because she once fell for a sweet-talking male. The man deceived her terribly, causing the Gu immortal to remain heartbroken for thousands of years. Aguna guessed that because of this, the Gu immortal set up a secret realm, established selection criteria, and chose the man with the lowest emotional intelligence among the Gu clan to face the Gu immortal. This way, the Gu immortal wouldn't have to worry about being deceived by a smooth talker again. Although the high priest doesn't have to face the Gu immortal now, the criteria for selecting the high priest never changed. That's why Aguna's father was chosen as the high priest. So, women don't like hearing the truth, Qin Luan nodded, indicating he learned something new. Seeing this, Song Ying, panicked, quickly held Qin Luan's face between her palms and said seriously, listen, I know you admire Zhongli, but you can't just copy everything he does. Zhongli also taught at the Great Zhou Dynasty Family Academy, saying that authority shouldn't be trusted blindly. Qin Luan's emotional intelligence was already very low. If he were to learn everything from Zhongli, establishing a relationship with Qin Luan seemed more and more unlikely for Song Ying. So you're saying women do like hearing the truth? Qin Luan asked, confused. Of course, as women, we naturally like hearing men speak their true feelings, Song Ying said shyly, full of implications. For example, if I ask you, who do you think is the most beautiful amongst the women around you? Qin Luan answered truthfully, recently, a white fox girl has been appearing in my dreams. She is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Somehow, lately, Qin Luan's dreams had been visited by a majestic, fluffy-eared, and tailed, beautiful white fox girl. In the dream, the white fox girl earnestly guided Qin Luan, pointing out the inadequacies in his recent cultivation methods, where he needed improvements, and what his strengths were. The white fox girl's cultivation level and insights were quite extraordinary, and she even practiced with Qin Luan. Qin Luan's combat experience was rapidly advancing during these dreams. Song Ying was nearly fuming out of irritation. Where did this fox vixen come from, trying to steal my man? The little white fox sat steadily on top of Qin Luan's head, staring innocently at Song Ying with its big eyes. What harm could a little fox possibly do? Then you could just lie, Song Ying said, disheartened. Song Ying, I love you, he said. Song Ying was overjoyed, her eyes sparkling, her realm showing signs of breakthrough. With a trembling voice, she asked, really? Qin Luan looked weirdly at the excited Song Ying. Of course, it's not. Isn't this what you asked me for, to lie? Song Ying wished that her cultivation level was as high as Qin Luan's, so she could pin Qin Luan to the ground and give him a good beating. Aguna, who was standing by, remained silent. Did she make her decision to like Qin Luan too early? So, do you want me to tell the truth or to lie? Qin Luan was utterly confused, thanks to Song Ying's repeated surprising reactions. Now, even Song Ying wasn't sure whether women preferred hearing the truth or lies. Actually, what women really like to hear is neither the truth nor lies but flattering remarks. Yuan Wuxing, being more experienced, cleared up the misunderstanding. Seeing his disciple's slow comprehension, Yuan Wuxing was beyond patient. He wondered when Qin Luan would start dating. After all, not having a love life would disrupt cultivation. Yuan Wuxing felt that Qin Luan's cultivation speed was so fast that he would catch up to him soon. This won't work. Let the master carry the burden of being the human emperor, while you should focus on having romantic relationships and building a harem. Qin Luan finally understood. Women like to hear compliments. Song Ying, of all the women I have seen, you are the strongest. You will definitely be the biggest obstacle on my journey to becoming the human emperor. Qin Luan thought this was the best compliment for Song Ying. As a cultivator, who doesn't want to grow stronger and become the human emperor? Hence, his remark essentially praised Song Ying as terribly powerful. She must be very pleased. Yuan Wuxing held his forehead, conceding that relying on Qin Luan to start a love life is impossible. He decided it would be more reliable to focus on his cultivation and break into the divinity transformation stage as quickly as possible, and compete for the title of human emperor with an absolute cultivation advantage. Thank you for your guidance, Brother Zhang, Mu, the leader, said, feeling that he had gained quite a bit from Zhang Li's advice. He secretly resolved that after dealing with the matter of the demon cultivators, he would use all the knowledge he learned from Brother Zhang to pursue a Yisu. Look forward to my wedding toast, my colleagues. Mu, the leader, was filled with confidence. Task issued. The Feiyan Commerce Association is hosting an auction. You obtained plenty of spirit stones from the GU Immortal Secret Realm, which presents a perfect opportunity for you to equip yourself. At the auction, you and an aristocratic disciple took a liking to the same item. The aristocratic disciple did not compete with you, causing them to lose face. Thus, they held a grudge, planning to teach you a lesson after the auction is over. Please win the fight against this aristocratic disciple and his followers. This task cannot be abandoned. Task reward. A collection of swordplay, insights of a cultivator in the body. Integration realm, and 100 superior spirit stones. Earlier, the system had issued a mission for Zhang Li to enter the GU Immortal Secret Realm and reach the very end. As the mission stated, you are discouraged from giving up this mission. Zhang Li chose to give up. This is why Zhang Li asked the high priest if someone else managed to reach the end again, would they receive a love GU as a reward. The high priest mentioned that the most outstanding woman of the generations of GU clan before them was still there. The generations before the GU clan happened to be 500 years prior. It seemed that the most outstanding woman from the very previous generation of the GU clan would have an ambiguous relationship with him in the system timeline. As the GU clan didn't have the divinity transformation stage, the fact that the woman managed to survive till the present indicated that she was at the nascent soul stage. Moreover, she had taken a lifespan extension pill at least once. Zhang Li already saw the woman from the window once. She was now an old, decrepit woman. Zhang Li didn't choose to see the woman he was supposed to have a relationship with. Instead, he left a few lifespan extension pills for the high priest to give to the woman and left the GU clan. The past cannot be changed, Zhang Li sighed. Chapter 205. The Pursuit of Learning Never Ends. Feiyan Commerce Association is the biggest commerce association in JoJo. It is rumored that the high ranks of the association consist of more than a dozen cultivators at the body integration realm. Once, an elderly man at the body integration realm tried to forcibly grab auction items because of his high cultivation level. However, instead of succeeding, he was severely injured by a few body integration cultivators of the association. This clearly displays the terror of the association. As for who these more than a dozen body integration cultivators are, it is not something that ordinary people would know. Of course, Zhang Li knows who are the cultivators behind Feiyan Commerce Association. After all, how could one expand in JoJo without reporting to the Imperial Palace? A power that has more than a dozen cultivators at the body integration realm can be termed as terrifying. This is already infinitely close to the level of the 6 great sects. Sky Mechanism Tower and Feiyan Commerce Association both belong to this category. The headquarters of the Feiyan Commerce Association is located in Great Zhou, and it has several branches throughout JoJo. To accomplish the system task, Zhang Li certainly couldn't go to the headquarters of Feiyan Commerce Association. After all, no aristocratic disciple in Great Zhou would teach you a lesson for this kind of thing. Instead, he decided to go to Tianyuan Emperor Dynasty, where the internal conflicts among the human race were the most intense. Zhang Li had been to the Tianyuan Emperor Dynasty during his weak period, and it was quite a sight with arrogant aristocratic disciples everywhere who looked down on people. After Yu Yin took the throne, he didn't deal with this situation, because the fortune of the Tianyuan Emperor Dynasty lies in its internal strife. The more intense the infighting, the more tense the situation, and the stronger the nation's fortune. Zhang Li arrived at the new capital of the Tianyuan Emperor Dynasty and entered the auction site in disguise. A servant gave Zhang Li a list of today's auction items. The list was filled with extremely rare treasures. 90% of these treasures could be found in Zhang Li's storage ring. This indicates what kind of good items are in the auction. After all, ordinary items could not make it into Zhang Li's storage ring. The list did not list all the items to be auctioned. It mentioned that 3 items were to be auctioned last. As for what these 3 items were, where they came from, and what the starting bid was, the list did not mention a word. Zhang Li didn't care, he could bid for anything anyway. In terms of wealth, perhaps there are few in JoJo that could compare to him. Zhang Li never worries about money. Money is just a small thing for writing a few body integration realm cultivation techniques. Of course, the cultivation techniques sold in JoJo are different from those sold to the system. The techniques Zhang Li sells are very practical. Zhang Li has his positioning very clear. If he wants aristocratic disciples to be unhappy with him and want to rob him or teach him a lesson, then he should be a nouveau riche with money, no fame, and low cultivation level. Zhang Li saw a familiar face in a black robe in the venue and happily sat next to him. We meet again. Human, mind your tone, don't get too familiar. The man did not appreciate Zhang Li's enthusiasm. Zhang Li didn't mind and said indifferently, I wonder if Yu Yin knows that you have come out. The man beside him shook, suddenly realizing who this person sitting next to him was. Zhang, brother Zhang, don't be so friendly, just call me human. Listen to you, I said, human. The man forced a smile, you can't tell my master about this. The man was wearing a black robe, and he had used a formation that prevented others from probing his true identity with their divine sense, making it impossible for others to see his true identity. But in front of Zhang Li, such a formation was virtually useless. Zhang Li used his divine sense to find out that the man was not a human, but a yellow-skinned gourd, set up with a spell inside a black robe. An immortal artifact, the Ruyi gourd. Sneaked out, did you? Not at all, the Ruyi gourd denied immediately before stammering, I did tell my master that I was going out of the palace for a walk, but I didn't specify that I was coming to the auction. What's the big deal about coming to the auction? Are you afraid that Yu Yin will find out? The Ruyi gourd chuckled without answering. What brings you here? To find a few guys with bad eyesight and let them beat me. The Ruyi gourd shivered. Let them beat you. The reality should be to let them be beaten by you. Look, it's Wang Bian, the envoy of Confucianism. Someone exclaimed, attracting attention. As expected, Wang Bian, dressed in a Confucian robe, was elegant and gentle in demeanor. He was received by the servant and entered the VIP room. Normally, even the Ruyi gourd could also enter this kind of room. However, for some reason, it chose to hide its identity and sat in the ordinary seats. Strange, there isn't anything that the Confucian school would need on this list. Someone was puzzled. Although the items for auction today were significant, they weren't at a level that would attract the interest of the Confucian envoys. Could it be the 3 hidden treasures? Why has someone from the Great Zhou Dynasty Family Academy come as well, and it's the Vice President Meng? Your information is outdated. A few years ago, Zhang Human Emperor scored last in the entrance examination because of his disrespect towards Zhang Human Emperor, and the president of the Great Zhou Dynasty Family Academy was replaced. Now it's not Vice President Meng, but President Meng. I see. However, it's strange. The items being auctioned this time aren't rare enough for such big shots to personally attend. Someone scanned the auction list. The Great Zhou Dynasty Family Academy focuses on research, and nothing being auctioned today seemed worth researching. Do you know what these 3 hidden treasures are? Zhang Li also found it strange. He seemed to have run into quite a few acquaintances today. I don't know. I just saw a list at the entrance to the venue. I entered when I saw something I was interested in. The Ruyi gourd stated that it was also unaware. Both of them were confused. The hidden auction items were a way for the Feiyan Commerce Association to hype up the atmosphere. In fact, they had already notified potential buyers of these 3 items. Clearly, Wang Bian and President Meng were here for the hidden auction items. It doesn't matter, in any case, it has nothing to do with me. Zhang Li didn't give it much thought. The first auction item is a bottle of heavy black water. Not only can it add a heavy force when refining a spiritual treasure, but it can also increase the cultivation speed of water spiritual root cultivators by 20%, of course, only below the golden core stage. The old man on the stage had his eyes narrowed to a slit. You would think he has his eyes closed if you weren't looking closely. He knocked the hammer. The starting price is 180 middle-grade spirit stones. 180, 200, quote, 240. I bid 300. The atmosphere in the venue was gradually heating up, stirring up everyone's desire to buy. 512. The old man's eyes flew open. The last time the auction was held at the Dao sect, someone had bid 512, and someone was doing it again. His many years of auctioning experience told him that it was the same person this time as the last one. 512 spirit stones once, 512 spirit stones twice, 512 spirit stones 3 times. The old man hammered down again. Congratulations to this benefactor for getting the heavy black water. Quote. He was secretly pleased. This time he wouldn't have to listen to people shouting 1024, 2048 anymore. Zhang Li was annoyed. Damn, no one raised the price this time. He shouldn't have shouted the power of 2 price on the first auction item, which was just worth 500 mid-grade spirit stones. The price he called was just about right. Next time, he should choose an expensive auction item. This was a lesson he must remember. Indeed, learning is endless. Even at the Mahayana realm, there is still a lot to learn. Zhang Li reflected. The Ruyi Gourd looked at Zhang Li strangely. Could this big shot have some sort of insight during the auction? Why didn't it have any? Chapter 206. Please spare us, Doubleganger. The auction was proceeding in an orderly manner with a series of rare and unique treasures on display, treating all attendees with a feast for their eyes. What seemed ordinary to Zhang Li was considered priceless and unattainable to others. This is the upgraded version of the spirit rice introduced by the Wind and Rain spirit plant sect. Its spiritual energy content is 3 to 5 times greater than that of its common counterpart found throughout the 9 provinces. It can be harvested twice a year and will only lose its special properties and turn into normal spirit rice after 20 times of harvest. The starting price is 1,200 medium-quality spirit stones. A small bag of the upgraded spirit rice triggered a fierce competition among many powers, including some major ones. After all, which power didn't harbor younger generations? Those who didn't practice fasting could still utilize spirit rice. Even for those who practiced fasting, it simply meant they didn't need to eat, not that they couldn't. This high-density spirit rice also had certain effects on cultivators who had already practiced fasting. Zhang Li, however, was not interested in this item. After all, the worst among the Imperial Palace were at the divinity transformation stage and were highly gifted, so they didn't need spirit rice. The Red Dust Desktop did need this kind of spirit rice, but being one of the 6 major sects, they directly bought the best spirit rice from the Wind and Rain spirit plant sect. The spirit rice sold at the auction was not the best product from the Wind and Rain spirit plant sect, but rather the underqualified product from the research on spirit rice. Why would they sell their best stuff? It's not like they were lacking spirit stones. Their presence at the auction was merely for promotion. Even these failed products were better than the widely circulated spirit rice. The shed skin of a flood dragon, just one step away from becoming a true dragon. The inner side remains covered by gooey flood dragon mucus that aids in body refinement. The starting price is 5,000 medium-quality spirit stones. The flood dragon skin displayed on the stage was incomplete, otherwise, the price would have been much higher. I, Yu Quan, have taken a liking to this item. I hope everyone can give me some face and not bid against me. So, 5,000 medium-quality spirit stones. A boastful voice came from one of the VIP rooms. He mentioned giving face, but his tone suggested anything but, it sounded more like a threat. It's the young master from the Yu clan, a clan guarded by 2 divinity transformation peak elders. No one has ever snatched anything he sets his eyes on. Someone exclaimed, whoever dares to compete with him is walking a dead-end road. Upon hearing this, Zhang Li immediately raised the bid, 6,000 medium-quality spirit stones. HMPH. Yu Quan was displeased to see someone not giving him face. He memorized Zhang Li's face, sneered chillingly with a trace of cruelty, 6,500 spirit stones. Let's see who dares to raise the bid now. 12,000 medium-quality spirit stones. Without a second thought, Zhang Li doubled the price. Yu Quan's face turned ominous. Just who was this nouveau riche throwing money around so recklessly? Thunderwood, starting price 8,000 medium-quality spirit stones. I, manhwa, find this item quite pleasing. I hope everyone will lend a helping hand. An unreasonable voice came from the VIP room. It's the young master from the Ma clan. Ma clan is 16,000 medium-quality spirit stones. Concerned that Yu Quan would lose face and seek revenge, Zhang Li decided to outbid this manhwa. What was that guy's name again? Something horse. It didn't matter, the bid had been made. My fellow Taoist, we're all cultivators, and it's not uncommon for us to get heavily injured while traveling at night. Manhwa spoke in a sinister tone. I bid 16,001 spirit stones. 32,000 medium-quality spirit stones. Zhang Li was hoping for an opportunity to get injured, so upon hearing Manhwa's threat, he happily doubled the price. Very well, you've done well. Manhwa clenched his teeth and sat down in anger. starting to contemplate the kind of lesson he would teach Zhongli. Soul-severing grass, starting price 7,500 medium-quality spirit stones. This item, Zhong. It's the young master from the Zhong clan. Zhong clan is 15,000 medium-quality spirit stones. As soon as Zhongli heard the familiar pattern, he reflexively raised his bid. This item, it's double. This item, it's double. This item, Zuyi. Zhongli waited for a while and didn't hear anyone exclaiming next to him, so he asked that person who only knew how to exclaim. Brother, you haven't introduced Zuyi yet. I am not sure how to bid. The man was almost in tears. Fellow Taoist, we've had no conflicts, please leave me be. You can provoke these powerful lords all you want, but don't drag me into it. Look at the way those young masters are looking at us, they all think we're in cahoots. Zhongli looked up and saw that all those young masters he deliberately provoked were looking at him and the man next to him with hostility. That man was quite knowledgeable and he knew almost everyone in the VIP rooms. Usually, he liked to introduce who's who to people with his favorite exclamatory tone, thereby showing off his knowledge and gaining a sense of satisfaction. After today, he dared not do it again. Zhongli figured that having provoked so many people now, there would probably be many wanting to teach him a lesson, so he chose to let it go. He felt that the man who had been introducing people to him had a pretty tough job, so he discreetly gave him a spirit-gathering talisman to aid his future cultivation. Bone healing and blood vitality pills can dredge the meridians, cleanse the marrow and open acupoints. Starting price, 10,000 medium-quality spirit stones. A pleading voice came from the VIP room. I'll introduce myself, I'm Jin Shi from the Jin clan, with 3 divinity transformation elders in my family. These bone healing and blood vitality pills are of great use to me. I hope the doubling fellow Taoist below the stage could spare me this time. Zhongli didn't make any further bids. Someone quickly shouted the bid of 11,000 medium-quality spirit stones, and the auction restored its regular order. Since Zhongli had been bidding randomly, he naturally caught the attention of those behind the auction. They asked him to prove that he had sufficient financial resources to afford these bids. Zhongli pulled out a small mountain of high-quality spirit stones, easily proving himself as a nouveau riche. The arrogant aristocratic disciples knew they couldn't compete with Zhongli in terms of wealth, so they thoroughly gave up on competing with him and looked forward to teaching him a lesson after the auction ended. Millennium Flesh Lingzi, an excellent conduit of nurturing souls, with the effect of reshaping the flesh. The auctioneer enthusiastically introduced the rare Millennium Flesh Lingzi, which caught the attention of some people. Their family had elders who only had their souls left, yet their longevity had not ended, they still had hundreds of years left to live. Compared with seizing a body, they preferred to shape a body on their own. Ruyi Gord coveted the Millennium Flesh Lingzi being auctioned off, but dared not say anything. Ruyi Gord thought it was better to be a human, so it secretly supported the Spirit Medicine sect in speedily researching the Lingbao transformation elixir. However, it just received a secret message from the sect master of the Spirit Medicine sect, saying that Zhongli, the human emperor, had prohibited research, hence the Spirit Medicine sect had to give up. Since the Spirit Medicine sect couldn't be relied upon, Ruyi Gord figured it could only rely on itself. Its main objective of attending today's auction was this Millennium Flesh Lingzi. Who would have guessed that it would encounter Zhongli here? Could it be that its thoughts had been discovered? Ruyi Gord was scared. Why aren't you bidding on anything? Zhongli curiously asked when the auction was about to reach the last 3 mysterious items. Just here for the spectacle, I don't intend to buy anything. Ruyi Gord replied nervously. Did you see anything you liked? I can buy it for you. Zhongli kindly offered. No, definitely not. Ruyi Gord quickly refused. Chapter 207. The human emperor's stuff is very valuable. Although the Ruyi Gord was acting strange, Zhongli didn't think it had anything to do with Lingbao transformation. Now that the grudges have been settled, he was waiting for the meeting to disperse and did not pay much attention to the stage. I know you all are looking forward to these last 3 items. The auctioneer did not keep everyone waiting, as he lifted the curtain to reveal an ordinary brush. Zhongli felt like he had seen this object before. The scholar King Change and Dean Meng unconsciously quickened their breaths, seeming extremely anxious. They attended the auction today specifically for this item. I believe you have all guessed by now. Yes, this is the brush used by our current human emperor, the Soul Mahayana realm cultivator, Zhongli. 1 foot. Zhongli's eyes widened in surprise. May I ask your business association, how can you prove that this is the brush that Zhongli, the human emperor, used? King Change asked. Hee, my friend King Change, don't hurry, let me finish. The reputation of Feiyan Commerce Association is known throughout 9 states, and of course, we won't ruin our own reputation. The auctioneer calmly introduced, as many of you know, after Zhang Li left Yang's family, he joined the Huayan sect and became good friends with the current supreme elder of Huayan sect, Yun Bo. This brush was provided by Yun Bo, who stated that Zhang Li used this brush to record the income and expenses of the Huayan sect 500 years ago and help the Huayan sect survive. The auctioneer displayed a certificate written by Yun Bo himself and stamped with his blood. After Zhang Li left the Huayan sect, Yun Bo, out of gratitude, treasured this brush without allowing it to gather a speck of dust. Now that the Huayan sect has caught up with the trend of Lingbao enlightening wisdom, they want to expand the scale of the sect. They need spirit stones, so they reluctantly decided to sell this brush. The business association confirmed from historical records and various aspects that this brush was the one that Zhang, the human emperor, used. The starting price, 100 top-grade spirit stones. Cough, cough. Zhang Li was startled by the price. This brush isn't even considered a Lingbao, is it that valuable? He did use this brush indeed, but the price seemed a bit outrageous. My friend, you are too naive. Someone explained to Zhang Li, you should know Huayan sect, right? That's where Zhang, the human emperor, started. The brush that Zhang Li used has become quite valuable, and it was used in the Huayan sect, which is an artifact that money can't buy, it's priceless. You know Dean Meng, right? He is a famous collector in Zhang Li's artifact circle. This brush is a symbol of Zhang Li's status in the artifact circle. And the scholar King Change, a famous analyst in Zhang Li's literature circle, who admires Zhang Li's works the most. This brush has accompanied Zhang Li for several months. As a literati, who wouldn't want this brush? Whoever gets this brush may be able to derive Zhang Li's wisdom and become as talented as he. Unfortunately, I'm just a small businessman and don't have enough spirit stones. Otherwise, I would definitely bid for this brush to bless my son. After listening to the introduction, Zhang Li was full of question marks. Is it that he can't keep up with the trend? What the heck are Zhang Li's artifact and literature circles? The Ruyi gourd was also listening on the side. It found it hard to understand the human thought process. While Zhang Li and the Ruyi gourd were baffled, the brush had already been auctioned off at the sky-high price of 780 top-grade spirit stones. This could buy a decent body integration realm cultivation technique. Are the things you've used so valuable? The Ruyi gourd had a new understanding of Zhang Li's wealth. Zhang Li wouldn't lack spirit stones in his lifetime. Looking at the situation, even the sticks from the sugar-coated haws he finished eating could probably sell for a good price. I only found out today. Zhang Li didn't know what kind of expression to put on. In the end, it was the wealthy Dean Meng who bought the brush. After going back, I'll frame it and hang it in the most eye-catching place for everyone to see. Dean Meng already had the next step planned. The second treasure, Zhang, the human emperor's ink treasure. Although the meaning of the text has been interpreted by many great men, no unified answer has been obtained. What this sentence means, what Zhang Li wants to express, still remains an unsolved mystery in the world of cultivation. The auctioneer displayed a small slip of paper. After enlargifying it with a spell, everyone could see the characters on the slip of paper. Odd functions change, but even ones don't. Check the quadrant for signs. Zhang Li covered his face. This was a mnemonic that he had left behind while doing function problems out of boredom at the Huayan sect. I heard an integration realm master explain that odd and even refer to odd and even days. Signs is a secret code left by the human emperor, and quadrant refers to the appropriate place to fill in the secret code. The meaning of this sentence is that in a place where odd days change but even days do not, if you fill in the appropriate signs in the quadrant, you will be able to open the treasure left by the human emperor. This is clearly nonsense and heresy, someone retorted. Zhang Li nodded slightly in agreement. The person continued, odd is a homonym for chicken, so odd changes means that the chicken is cut into pieces. Even is a homonym for lotus root, so even does not change means the lotus root is kept whole. Signs refers to the runes that control the fire power, and quadrant refers to the 4 images of the starry sky. This sentence is talking about stewing chicken pieces and whole lotus roots together, and adjusting the fire according to the changes in the stars. This is how to cook the favorite dish of Zhang, the human emperor, old hen stewed with lotus root. Old hen stewed with lotus root? What the hell is that? Isn't candied haws my favorite food? May I ask, who said that the old hen stewed with lotus root is Zhang Li's favorite dish? It is said that when Zhang Li was touring Mountain Yu, he suddenly felt hungry and went to a nearby village for a meal. The villagers, knowing that he was the human emperor, happily slaughtered an old hen to treat him. Zhang Li couldn't stop praising the old hen stewed with lotus root after eating it. Didn't Zhang Li fast? Why did he feel hungry? Zhang Li asked. I don't know about that, it's just what people say. Zhang Li thought that today's auction was truly an eye-opener. Although the meaning of this sentence is unclear, it is indeed Zhang, the human emperor's handwriting. The person who gets this slip of paper might have a chance to understand Zhang Li's intent. The starting price, 1,000 top-grade spirit stones. Compared to the brush, this slip of paper was obviously more valuable. Dean Meng and King Change repeatedly raised the price. In the end, the King Change bought Zhang Li's ink treasure for 2,123 top-grade spirit stones. It seems everyone is very interested. The auctioneer could hardly stop smiling. This auction would earn their association a whopping 15% commission. They were going to make a fortune. Now, the finale for today's auction, the scriptures left behind by Zhang, the human emperor. Zhang Li suddenly stood up, his eyes locked on the book. This was the cringe-worthy novel he wrote in his previous life's language after he traveled to Jojo. Such lines as, "How dare you defy the will of the king? Why should I fear being against the world? I grant you death, it is your honor, those who fall into darkness forever yearn for light." This is absolutely something that others must not see. Chapter 208. A person will experience 4 deaths in their lifetime. Zhang Li once thought of a phrase from his past life. A person's life will experience 3 deaths. The first death is when your heartbeat stops, your breath fades, and you are biologically declared dead. The second death is when you are buried, people attend your funeral, they announce, you no longer exist in this society, you quietly depart. The third death is when the last person in this world who remembers you, forgets about you, then, you truly die. The whole universe will no longer have anything to do with you. At that time, Zhang Li thought this phrase made a lot of sense, and now, he had a new realization and decided to add one more sentence. The fourth death is when everyone in this world remembers you, including your behaviors during your adolescent rebellion stage. Damn you, Yun Bo. Having crossed from a technologically advanced former life into an immortal-filled world of JoJo, it's inevitable to have some fantasies. Zhang Li wrote this novel when he was at Hua Yun sect, fantasizing about himself becoming the supremely powerful of JoJo, invincible in the world, able to gather responses from everyone by merely raising his arm. In short, anything outrageous is possible. Although these fantasies have now become reality, and even to the point of exceeding the reality, such as, he dared not think much at that time, and just fantasized about entering the Transcendence Tribulation stage. But the issue is not necessarily the content, but the tone of speech and sentence structure. So embarrassing. This novel was hidden by him under the third brick to the left under his bed, which was hard to find. He had left in a hurry when he left the Hua Yun sect and forgot to take away the book. Later, as he experienced so much excitement in JoJo, he gradually forgot about this matter. Had it not been exhibited at today's auction, Zhang Li would have forgotten that he ever wrote such a novel. Luckily, the novel was written in the language of his past life, and he only wrote a few thousand words, so others wouldn't be able to decipher it even if they wanted to. Otherwise, Zhang Li would consider leaving JoJo and taking refuge in the zombie world. Zhang Li now had the impulse to thank the system. Fortunately, it arranged a task to participate in TNE auction, allowing him to cover up Ms. Adolescent Rebellion history. This patron fellow Taoist, Yor, the old man presiding over the auction, looked hesitantly at Zhang Li, not knowing why the other party had such a great reaction and even stood up. Nothing, it's just that I have admired the extraordinary human emperor for a long time. Today, I saw the remnants left by the human emperor. I was so overjoyed that I couldn't help myself and stood up to express my joy. Zhang Li quickly returned to a normal state and sat down calmly. Zhang Li didn't want his identity to be publicly revealed. Even if others didn't know this was a novel written during his adolescent rebellion, he knew. Express his identity, and then arrogantly take away the novel that he wrote during his adolescent rebellious period. Zhang Li's sense of shame wouldn't allow him to do that. My Dao heart is not firm enough. Zhang Li once again had a sensory feeling. The Ruyi Gourd was surprised. Does this big boss have such a high frequency of enlightenment? 2 enlightenment sessions in one auction. There are quite a few followers of the human emperor in JoJo, and some people were even more exaggerated than Zhang Li. The auctioneer didn't think too much and continued to preside over the auction. Seeing that there were quite a few people doubting the origin of this book among the crowd below, The old man explained, indeed, this book has not been recorded in any official or unofficial history, and the characters in the book have never been seen before. That's why it's called the Heavenly Book. We have invited many masters who study the human emperor to judge, and they all came to the same conclusion: this book is indeed written by the human emperor. Quote. The old man was straightforward. Unfortunately, this book only has a few thousand words, too few to decipher the meaning of the strange text. I'm afraid the only way to understand what the human emperor has written is to find similar works. Of course, if the person who won the bid for this book is well connected and can see the human emperor, they might know the answer after asking. Hearing this, Ruyi Gord curiously asked, what is written in this book? Zhang Li did not answer. Instead, he gazed at Ruyi Gord with melancholy and told it a story. Once upon a time, there were 7 Gords who became spirits and recognized a mortal as their grandfather. They curiously asked, Grandpa, where did we come from? The grandfather laughed and said, your curiosity is as heavy as your parents'. Your parents used to ask the same question. The Gord spirits asked again, but we've never seen our parents, and the grandfather laughed again and said, yes, where are your parents? The 7 Gord spirits were never seen again after that, and other Gord spirits appeared beside the grandfather. After listening to this, Ruyi Gord trembled for a while and quickly squelched its curiosity. In that case, this book is also a treasure of the human emperor. The starting price is 5,000 top-grade spirit stones. King Change and Chancellor Meng were eager to try. They were determined to win this treasure today. 8,000, just as King Change was about to call out his price, he was drowned out by a louder voice. 50,000 top-grade spirit stones. Zhang Li shouted out an impressive price with an undeniable tone. 50,000 top-grade spirit stones were enough to buy 3 to 4 cultivation techniques for transcending tribulation and becoming an immortal. Where did this nouveau riche come from? Does his family own a spirit stone mine? And King Change, who had prepared with 50,000 spirit stones, was suddenly stopped in his tracks. Chancellor Meng was even more prepared. He had gathered 60,000 top-grade spirit stones. He thought Zhang Li was just trying to outdo others with a seemingly rich act, but in reality, only had 50,000 spirit stones. So, Chancellor Meng made his bid, 51,000. 100,000. Zhang Li immediately doubled the price. He had to win this book. Even if an immortal came, he wouldn't be able to stop him. Zhang Li's bid was outrageous. The well-prepared King Change and Chancellor Meng were defeated in one fell swoop, with no hope of victory. The auctioneer was overjoyed. He didn't know where this big spender came from, but they bid without even blinking an eye. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones greatly exceeded the expectation of the business association. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones for the first time. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones for the second time. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones for the third time. The old man knocked with his little hammer. Deal. Congratulations to this fellow Taoist for obtaining the heavenly book of the human emperor. Having obtained the heavenly book that everyone wanted to have, Zhang Li didn't feel any joy. The first thing Zhang Li did when he got this book was to stuff it into a box, apply multiple seals, and even a true immortal wouldn't be able to open it. The box was then placed inside another box, and more seals were applied. This was repeated 3 times before Zhang Li finally put the box, or rather the crate, into the storage ring. It's safe now. Zhang Li let out a long breath. Would you like me to arrange for escorts to ensure your safety? The auctioneer inquired considerately. Initially, the society did not have this service, but considering this is a big client, he added this service specifically for him. Zhang Li refused. The security of the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty had always put Zhang Li at ease. As soon as he left the auction house, a group of people surrounded him with imposing momentum and infamous intentions. There were disgraced family heirs who felt that they had lost face and bandits who wanted to take the opportunity to rob others. Zhang Li sneered, waiting for just these people. Zhang Li acted decisively, teaching these people a painful lesson, making them so injured that they had to lie in bed for 3 months, and even medicinal pills wouldn't help. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Chapter 209. The domineering Mahayana falls in love with me. Esteemed Dao friend, my surname is Meng, I am the dean of the Academy of the Great Zhou Dynasty family. I have a fondness for collecting things related to the human Emperor Zhang. I wonder if you would be willing to part with this book and let me have it. Although, Mr. Meng may not have the same financial resources as you, Dao friend, I do possess quite a lot of items related to the human Emperor Zhang. I noticed that you too, are an admirer of human Emperor Yang's elegance. If you'd part with it, everything in Mr. Meng's collection could belong to you. After Zhang Li taught a group of aristocratic disciples a lesson, Dean Meng and the King Change hurriedly came over. They had originally planned to assist Zhang Li in a time of danger, to rescue him, to owe him a favor, and facilitate further transactions in the future. But who would have anticipated that this relatively unknown Taoist friend would be so terrifyingly powerful, more likely than not, a god transformation stage cultivator. Tao friend, I am Confucius Traveler King Change. If you're willing to sell this book to me, I can recommend you to become an elder in the Confucian scripture. How about it? Zhang Li simply couldn't agree to their demands and promptly flew away from that location. Tao friend, if you find conditions unsatisfactory you can propose others. The Dean, Meng, and King Change yelled out from behind, but Zhang Li flew too quickly. They soon lost sight of him and with regret, they had no other choice but to give up. Issuing task compensation, swordsmanship, cloud-piercing sunlight. Zhang Li skimmed through, this indeed was an extremely formidable swordsmanship. This set of techniques when practiced to the extreme, can unleash a sword strike that parts the clouds to reveal the sunlight. You must know, even Zhang Li needs to employ a single thought in order to achieve this kind of state. One sword strike equivalent to Zhang Li's single thought, that itself was already incredible. Issuing task compensation, a set of body integration realm cultivator enlightenment. The faded yellow paper recorded the enlightenment of a body integration. Realm cultivators transition from a golden core stage to entering a nascent soul stage. Perhaps in the system's opinion, this is the best reward for Zhang Li who is in the late stages of the golden core. It's written pretty well, there are only a few minor mistakes. Zhang Li revised this piece of paper, correcting all the misconceptions on the paper once over, then wrote A, B, grade in the top right corner with a brush. To let Zhang Li grade as B, grade, it denotes just how extraordinary this enlightenment was. As for the system rewarding 100 Supreme Spirit Stones unless it was a system reward, even if they were discarded on the ground, Zhang Li couldn't bother picking them up. This time for a mandatory mission, Zhang Li felt that the system was trying to stir up trouble for him. Defeating a group of aristocratic disciples? Certainly, it won't end just like this. Clearly the situation can escalate, with beating the young ones leading to the older ones turning up. Beating the older ones will lead to the great ancestors making an appearance, causing animosity against an entire family. Aristocratic disciples typically have god transformation stage ancestors in the background. The system's real intention was to provoke enmity with god transformation practitioners under pressure to result in quick growth. This is a script written 500 years ago. Am I in the West? Zhang Li, who'd been deep in thought the entire time, realized he had unknowingly flown to the western end of the 9 continents, very close to the pure red dust and Mount Sumeru. Zhang Li wanted to check in on the red dust ferry and see if anything new has happened, so he visited the pure red dust. Zhang pays his respects, Zhang Li called out in front of the sect protection array. The sect protection array had an auto-repair function. Many years ago when the Taoist Zanai was causing chaos, Zhang Li shattered the array with a single punch. After so long, it had completely auto-repaired itself. The gatekeeper disciple, upon seeing it was human Emperor Zhang, was given orders by Clear Desire's sect leader. Her little face blushed completely red and she gladly opened the gate for Zhang Li. What are you looking at? The pure red dust was far removed from worldly affairs, few people came here. The gatekeeper disciple's duty was simple. Zhang Li noticed that the gatekeeper disciple was holding a novel titled, Arrogant Mahayana Fell in Love with Me. It was an unfamiliar book, and the author's name was not on it either. Zhang Li suspected that it might be a new work from teacher Sensual Desire. The works of teacher Sensual Desire had a wide reach, they even made it to the pure red dust. It was quite impressive, Zhang Li mused. It's a novel, it's very popular in the pure red dust now. Where did you buy it? Who is the author? I don't know, just one morning, all of us noticed a book at our bedside. Human Emperor Zhang, welcome. The sect leader Clear Desire came out to greet him. Even though he killed her ex-boyfriend whom she had always secretly admired, Zhang Li has saved pure red dust. Sect leader Clear Desire's attitude towards Zhang Li has softened considerably. Oh, you don't have to welcome me. I'm not here to see you. Clear Desire's sect leader clenched her fists, resisting the urge to strike Zhang Li. She continuously coached herself in her mind. He is the benefactor of pure red dust, you must forgive him. He is the benefactor of pure red dust, you must forgive him. Zhang Li deliberately spoke to the sect leader Clear Desire in such a way to annoy her. Zhang Li disapproved of sect leader Clear Desire's actions for pursuing a younger man. You're an 800-year-old woman, but Wu Ji is only in his teens. It's appalling that you are so brazen about trying to seduce him. Would you like to see Pure Heart? Then please wait a moment, she'll come to see you soon. Sect leader Clear Desire replied with relief. She tried to think positively as much as possible. If this simple-minded man has started to understand and has come to meet her disciple, that would be fantastic. Normally when Zhongli visits, the Saintess Pure Heart should be the first one to greet him. However, she wanted to present the best side of her to Zhongli, so she was still in her room applying makeup. I am here to see the Red Dust Fairy to see how she has been lately and whether there have been any new changes. Sect leader Clear Desire was helpless in this matter. After all, she too couldn't resist the allure of the Red Dust Fairy. She was unable to bring Zhongli along with her. She called upon a descendant of the Red Dust Fairy to accompany this fellow disciple to accompany Zhongli to the place where the peach tree was. After Zhongli has gone, she visited the Saintess Pure Heart herself and informed her that Zhongli has gone to see the ancestor. When Zhongli, under the guidance of a disciple, found the Red Dust Fairy, she was swinging on a swing under a peach tree, letting off a crisp and appealing voice. Her bare jade feet swinging back and forth made people want to toy around with her. The pink peach petals were constantly fluttering down, as if all the beauty in the world converged on this scene. Even the inexperienced Zhongli had to admit that it was a beautiful sight. He secretly admired in his heart, it was worthy of being the embodiment of beauty, of the heavenly Tao. Anyone who pursues the heavenly Tao cannot escape this charm. However, it wasn't enough to make him lose his senses. Fairy, it has been a long time, Zhongli stepped forward to greet her. When the Red Dust Fairy saw Zhongli, she too was quite delighted. She climbed up the tree to pluck a peach and passed it to Zhongli. Here, eat, this is the best thing. A celestial peach is indeed a good thing. Consuming it can improve one's cultivation, cleanse the meridians, has no side effects, and leaves no residues in the body, making it better than any other elixirs or miracle cures. But Zhongli dares not accept this. Who knows if this peach could make a man pregnant? The peach tree was a genuine celestial tree. Anything associated with celestial could not be considered ordinary. You should enjoy this yourself. Wait, maybe you shouldn't either. It's a pity this peach tree is unable to develop spiritual intelligence and transform, otherwise on the day of its transformation, it will perhaps attain immortality. Zhongli stroked the bark of the peach tree. In general, living beings in the 9 continents are divided into humans and demons. However, living beings like the linden leader, who's a linden tree spirit, weren't considered humans or demons but rather spirits. Spirits are creatures that are nurtured by nature itself. They can't reproduce, can't form a tribe, and exist only as individuals. The linden leader's original body was an old linden tree, which was not unusual in itself. Its spirit and transformation were only a result of a long life. This peach tree, however, was different. Its celestial nature was too strong. If such a celestial object were to develop spiritual intelligence and transform, it would be too shocking and unacceptable to the heavenly Tao. Even the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal had a hard time enlightening it. Chapter 210, Fighting with the Fairy of Red Dust. The head of Clear Desire sect arrived at Pure Heart Saintess's boudoir, telling her disciple, who was still applying makeup, Zhongli has gone to see Master Hongchen. Pure Heart Saintess, who was struggling with which hairstyle to wear when meeting Zhongli, abruptly halted, sensing a great crisis. She gave up choosing, donned her gold lotus-patterned shoe brocade dress, combed her ink-black hair into a simple and elegant bun, and stepped outside to greet the visitor. Her skin was as smooth as jade, her eyes radiant and expressive, like a pristine lotus in a world of chaos, untouched by the aura of the red dust. Even though she didn't know why Zhongli was immune to Master Hongchen's charm, apart from the inherent aura of intellectual reduction that Master Hongchen had, she herself was an unparalleled beauty from all eras. It seemed probable to Pure Heart Saintess that Zhongli could lose control of himself if he was around such beauty for a long time. Pure Heart Saintess was a disciple personally groomed by the head of Clear Desire sect, so how could her master not understand her thoughts? She sighed, feeling that Pure Heart Saintess was thinking too much. Recently, a book titled, Arrogant Mahayana Fell in Love with Me, has appeared in the sect. Have you read it? Head of Clear Desire sect asked casually. No, I haven't heard of it. Pure Heart Saintess was caught off guard by this question, denying it hastily. Then she asked back, do you think the book is good, Master? The writing is a bit immature but the plot is good. You can tell the author put effort into it, said the leader of the Clear Desire sect. What she really wanted to say was that the book lacked literary style and was all about emotions. However, to save face for the author, she changed her words. Pure Heart Saintess was overjoyed to hear her master's compliments. When Pure Heart Saintess left, the head of Clear Desire sect came to the third brick under her disciple's bed, lifted it, and after a few digs, found something she expected. As expected, this girl hasn't changed her hiding spot since she was little. It was a storage ring, which was sealed. Without knowing the unlocking method, it would never be able to open. And the head of Clear Desire sect had learned how to break this seal hundreds of years ago. She found a book and got the answer she wanted. So you really did write it, the head of Clear Desire sect sighed. The book title was neatly written on the cover with beautiful handwriting. Arrogant Mahayana fell in love with me. The head of Clear Desire sect's branch, which was derived from the original technique of Master Hongchen, emphasized simplicity of desires and maintaining a pure heart. It seemed that it wasn't an exaggeration to say that the master and the disciple were betraying their ancestors. The head of Clear Desire sect put the book back into the ring, buried it in the soil, covered it with a brick, as if nothing had ever happened. How have you been feeling lately, immortal? Can you control your power now? Master Hongchen was an immortal being born from an immortal corpse. The soul emerging from the corpse was also at the immortal level, plus her own residual immortal power, so it could be said that Master Hongchen was a true immortal. Unlike regular cultivators who gradually climbed up step by step, Master Hongchen had been an immortal since the day she was born. Zhang Li even speculated that she was not an earth immortal. It was impossible to fully harness the power of an immortal in just a few years. Want to give it a try? Master Hongchen seemed eager to start, like a child who had received a toy but hadn't been allowed to play until now. Don't use immortal power. In other words, she agreed. After hearing this, Master Hongchen's hands transformed into yin and yang, with overwhelming power, demonstrating the cycle of life and death, as if the world originated from here and ended here. You can directly use the way of yin and yang without using immortal power. Zhang Li was slightly surprised. Long Survivor Immortal once said that those who could become immortals must master a Tao. However, to use the Tao required immortal power to support, and hardly any immortal could use the Tao at will without using immortal power. Only the pure Tao carriers, that is, immortal artifacts, had no demand for immortal power. For example, the way of cause and effect is used by the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, the way of space is utilized by the Brahma Tower, and the way of time is employed by the past and present sword. Now, Zhang Li witnessed another Tao used by a creature of immortal rank, the way of Yin and Yang. The punch she released, while seemingly silly and harmless, tore through space where it passed, revealing the void. For an average cultivator, even being grazed by it would be fatal. Zhang Li's eyebrows raised slightly, and he caught this punch, which appeared to inflict no harm but, in reality, would overwhelm even a cultivator at the Transcendence Tribulation stage. He caught this small fist, a representation of both creation and annihilation, with one hand. The way of yin and yang had no effect on him. Even if the force were a bit more substantial, it would not matter. Zhang Li laughed. Such power was still not enough to hurt him. The elders and disciples watching from afar were stunned. Serving at the side of their master for so many years, they knew her to be an extraordinary immortal, but they'd never seen her utilize the power of immortals before. Today, truly, she lived up to the name of immortal. One should know that the original celestial maiden Hongchen ran away from the immortal realm to Jojo precisely because she was strong enough to suppress those Jojo cultivators who were attracted by her charm. During that time, there were quite a few immortals in Jojo, but the celestial maiden Hongchen was still fearless. She could suppress them, showing her incredible might. What shocked the elders and disciples even more was Zhang Li's performance. Being an immortal realm immortal, their master was blessed by the heavenly Tao, embodying the beauty of the way. Her strength was understandable. When it came to Zhang Li, perhaps, they were amazed. He'd never visited the immortal realm, was not an immortal, yet he was potentially even more powerful than their highly esteemed ancestors. This was simply incomprehensible. Whether it was him or her, they both created a sense of inadequacy in the body integration realm elders. Even powerful beings of the body integration realm from other worlds seemed as harmless as infants in front of the power displayed by these two. The celestial maiden Hongchen was greatly surprised. She knew Zhang Li was powerful, but she'd no idea how powerful he was. It occurred to her that he might be a formidable and amusing opponent. Celestial maiden Hongchen stopped holding back and began to use martial arts techniques only available in the immortal realm based on the original owner's body memory. Each punch and kick carried the power of the Qian and Kun. If not for her good control of her strength, just a trace of leaking power could destroy her pure land of red dust. Though the peach tree of immortality lacked intelligence, it possessed spirituality. That's why Zhang Li referred to it as she, rather than it. The peach tree of immortality spread its branches and petals, enclosing the area where the celestial maiden Hongchen and Zhongli were fighting. With the peach tree of immortality as her protector, celestial maiden Hongchen began to confidently use her full strength. Her fists, elbows, knees, and feet were no longer merely employing the way of yin and yang, they were also incorporating her brute physical force. True enough, her power far surpasses that of an earth immortal. Zhongli compared the force of celestial maiden Hongchen with that of the long-standing celestial Wang and the heavenly demons from outside the territory. He found that her power was worlds apart from the latter two. This was the gap between the earth and the sky, between a human and an immortal. A heavenly immortal, but that's still insufficient. Zhongli chuckled as he leisurely neutralized the fierce attacks from celestial maiden Hongchen. Perhaps only Zhongli and Jojo could withstand her punch. What intrigued Zhongli were the moves of celestial maiden Hongchen. These were techniques that immortals from the immortal realm who focused on cultivating their bodies learned, which even the long-standing celestial Wang didn't know. That was the only area where celestial maiden Hongchen was stronger than Zhongli. Zhongli continued to mimic and surpass her during their exchange, and very quickly, celestial maiden Hongchen held no advantage over him. It's such a pity that this was only physical strength. If they were to utilize immortal power, it would probably become so much stronger that he could feel the true power of a heavenly immortal, Zhongli mused to himself. However, this was merely wishful thinking. Zhongli couldn't allow celestial maiden Hongchen to use her immortal power. This was Zhongli's first time experiencing power beyond that of an earth immortal. It felt refreshing but wasn't overwhelmingly powerful. Despite exhausting all her tricks, celestial maiden Hongchen still couldn't hurt Zhongli and was panting heavily. On the contrary, Zhongli was coping with ease, making steady progress by learning from his exchanges with celestial maiden Hongchen. Alright, let's stop here. Seeing celestial maiden Hongchen start to use her immortal power as her strength waned, Zhongli hurriedly called for a cessation. Zhongli observed that the barrier set up by the peach tree of immortality was about to shatter. If they continued, they might no longer be able to control the situation. Chapter 211. Zhongli's battle to break through the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Holy Maiden. The elder and his disciples showed their reverence upon seeing the pure heart Holy Maiden. Both in terms of cultivation and prestige, the pure heart Holy Maiden could have long since been the sect hierarch. When it came to reality, major and minor affairs of the Red Dust Holy Land were also managed by her. The only difference between the pure heart Holy Maiden and the hierarch was the title. When not considering Zhongli, the pure heart Holy Maiden was a competent captain. What is this? The pure heart Holy Maiden was perplexed upon seeing the barrier formed by the open peach tree. She had never seen the immortal tree use such a spell before. Through the overlapping pink petals, she could faintly see Zhongli and the ancestral master inside. Zhong, the human emperor, wanted to spar with the ancestral master. As they both have shocking combat power, the immortal tree opened the barrier to protect us. The elder explained. This elder was a beautiful woman, whose youth had been worn away by time. With a beauty mark near her mouth, every frown and smile wielded a unique charm that would make her popular in the outside world. However, she was only considered average in the Red Dust Holy Land. Before long, the barrier disappeared, revealing two figures. Your body and soul have not yet been fully integrated. Try not to take any action before that, Zhongli suggested. Their battle didn't last long and wasn't intense. However, the fairy of red dust began to pant heavily. It was obviously abnormal. Oh, the fairy of red dust pouted, considering Zhongli's advice for her. If you want to go out and play, I can accompany you. Zhongli suggested. No, I need to adapt to my body. The fairy of red dust declined Zhongli's suggestion. No, I need to adapt to my body. The fairy of red dust declined Zhongli's suggestion. Zhongli could only express regret. Actually, he didn't really want to accompany the fairy of red dust. He just wanted to use her as a cover to go out and play himself. From the looks of it, you're still one step ahead of the ancestral master. The pure heart Holy Maiden handed the fairy of the red dust a gourd while smiling. The gourd was filled with soul-stabilizing spring water. From their expressions, she could easily guess who won and who lost. The fairy of red dust drank the water with a gulp-gulp sound, totally devoid of feminine reserve. Zhongli twitched at the corner of his mouth. Don't you teach her manners. The fairy of red dust was a blank slate. She would learn whatever others taught her. If they didn't teach her, she would just do whatever she wanted. Sometimes, Zhongli found it subtly strange when the childish behavior of the mature-bodied fairy of the red dust showed. She didn't learn. The pure heart Holy Maiden had tried to teach her, but she just refused to learn. What could she do about that? She couldn't resort to physical punishment when she didn't learn, could she? She'll understand when she grows up. The pure heart holy maiden could only comfort herself with this thought. How about we spar as well? The pure heart holy maiden thought sparring could shorten the distance between them. Zhang Li squinted at the pure heart holy maiden, wondering why she was so deluded about her own capabilities. Seeing Zhang Li remain silent, the pure heart holy maiden took his silence as agreement and drew out the 12-rank green lotus. Worthy of mention, this was her life-bound spiritual treasure, intimate and responsive to her thoughts. It wouldn't be affected by the beauty of the fairy of red dust, otherwise the intelligent spiritual treasures would lose control upon witnessing her beauty, wishing to serve and possess her. Back when the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal sold various spiritual treasures in the past, many spiritual treasures in the Red Dust Holy Land beheld the beauty of the fairy of the red dust, and they lost control, wanting to venerate and possess her. Fortunately, the fairy of the red dust awakened at that time and suppressed these spiritual treasures. Therefore, the situation didn't get out of control. The 12-rank green lotus bloomed, emitting a deep blue light, capable of silently dissolving everything. This gentle power concealed a dangerous threat. A slight misstep could cause the enemy to be defeated. However, this was only effective against opponents in the body integration realm. Zhang Li twisted his right hand, showcasing the way of yin and yang, turning the destructive light into purifying light, promoting growth and development of all beings, devoid of any offensive power. This was the way of yin and yang that Zhang Li recently learned from Fairy of the Red Dust. This move of yours is quite strong among the body integration realm practitioners. Even Zhang Konggu might not be able to withstand it. Zhang Li could tell that the pure heart holy maiden had reached the pinnacle of the body integration realm and possessed great potential. Just one life and death struggle would allow her to surpass her limit and she could enter the transcendence tribulation stage. However, he did not know what could become the catalyst for her breakthrough and when or where it could happen. Or maybe there would be no catalyst in her lifetime. To break through the transcendence tribulation stage, one needed not only talent but also luck. Still not enough, still can't compare to you when you were in the body integration realm. The pure heart holy maiden was discontent with her current state. She wanted to become stronger, to reach the transcendence tribulation stage, to become immortal, to reach the Mahayana realm. If Zhang Li was to go to the immortal realm, she would be able to keep up with him. You could fight evenly against two warriors in the transcendence tribulation stage when you were in the body integration realm. The pure heart holy maiden didn't think she was at the peak of the body integration realm, she could only last several rounds with someone in the transcendence tribulation stage. This was far from Zhang Li's achievement when he was in the body integration realm. You can't compare with me, Zhang Li stated flatly. Back then, I was equipped with the power of sentient beings' wishes, and barely had the power to fight with two rivals in the transcendence tribulation stage. If I hadn't broken through the transcendence tribulation stage later on, the one who would have eventually lost was undoubtedly me. Before Zhang Li took the throne, upon the death of the previous human emperor, there was a grave feud between the Wuguo's monarch and the Qingtian sect's hierarch. Their feud finally exploded, culminating in a battle to the death. The monarch of Wuguo, by means of the power of his nation's fate, temporarily advanced into the transcendence tribulation stage. The Qingtian sect's hierarch was already in the transcendence tribulation stage, thus, commencing a duel between the two transcendence tribulation stage warriors. Unexpectedly, the two began their battle in the mainland of Zhou. One can only imagine the staggering death toll. The phrase, "rivers of blood," wouldn't begin to cover it. A mother could be seen clutching her dead child's arm in pain and a child pushing at his mother's corpse. A young girl cried out in the deserted streets for her grandfather. Behind this battle, there was endless separation and tragic stories. To reduce casualties, Zhang Li, who was only in the body integration realm, was determined to hold them off until another warrior in the transcendence tribulation stage could arrive. He had to hastily take the throne, using an unfamiliar power of faith, i.e., the power of sentient beings' wishes, to join the battle. Due to the lack of a formal ceremony for assuming the throne, the power of faith could not be used properly. Zhang Li was almost burst apart by the unruly power of faith. According to the recollections of the onlookers, Zhang Li was glowing red with swelling all over his body during that time. It was as if he could explode at any moment. People cried out, urging Zhang Li to run. They said that their deaths didn't matter, but the newly grown human emperor shouldn't fall here. It wasn't worth it. The ultimate fate of the human emperor was to face the heavenly demons from outside the realm, not to be caught in the infighting of humanity. The people preferred to be killed by these two bastards than to see Zhang Li die here. Ignoring their cries, Zhang Li fought with his life on the line, but was still not the match for the two. He was cornered. Only in such circumstances did Zhang Li finally break through the Transcendence Tribulation stage, turning the tables. Seeing that he was no match for Zhang Li, the hierarch of Qingtian sect used evil techniques, sacrificing the entire sect to consolidate his power. A once brilliant ancient sect vanished, leaving only the robes of its disciples. Yet still, he could not overpower Zhang Li, and in the end, both of them were killed. Disregarding that battle, Zhang Li, at the peak of his body integration realm, could indeed fight a Transcendence Tribulation stage adversary for 100 rounds, making him somewhat stronger than the pure heart Holy Maiden. But Zhang Li's strength lay not within his mana, but within his tactics against enemies, his understanding of spells, their usage, and his versatility during a fight. For instance, during a battle, Zhang Li could create new spells on the fly, so much so that even Bai Hongtu would acknowledge his prowess. Such things couldn't be taught, but only comprehended. Chapter 212. If I can beat you, can I beat your storage ring? Try to tap into the full potential of your spells, and develop their various uses. Illusion techniques can be used not only on enemies but also on yourself. Zhang Li wanted to teach some combat skills, so he used pure heart as an example. For instance, you're attractive, recognized across the 9 provinces as a beauty. The cultivators who fight you see your appearance, are charmed, and can't bear to attack you, thus their strength can't reach even 70% of their potential. But a fight is a fight, regardless of the opponent's gender or appearance. We should ignore these external factors in combat and make the fight pure. If I were in the place of that cultivator, I would cast an illusion on myself, imagining you as an ugly monster. Then I could fight with peace of mind, and perhaps even perform beyond my usual capability. Zhang Li felt his example was apposite. Pure heart gritted her teeth as she listened. Is this seriously his way of giving examples? You can use the techniques of sowing beans into soldiers, Dharma manifestation in the world, and establishment of the 3 Pure Land, simultaneously. First, use beans to produce a group of soldiers, then allow the soldiers to wield Dharma manifestation in the world. If you think their numbers are insufficient, use establishment of the 3 Pure Land to multiply them. That way, from just 1 bean thrown, you get 3 soldiers with the ability to deploy Dharma manifestation in the world. However, considering the high consumption of spiritual energy and difficulty in controlling establishment of the 3 Pure Land, this recommendation is for reference only. Also, when you have time, learn the corpse driving technique, it's useful. When your spiritual soul leaves your body during combat, and your physical body is unable to fight like a corpse, you can use the corpse driving technique to control your body while your soul continues to fight. This doubles your combat power. When fighting, you must be agile, and not limited by rigid combat modes. Like, if your opponent is too strong, you may not defeat them. But why must you overcome them? You can break their storage ring instead, and seize the opportunity to escape while they're taken aback. Zhang Li spoke of this from extensive personal experience because he really had used this trick when he was weaker. Can't beat you, but can I not beat your storage ring? The Buddhists, being experts in the realm of space, mainly produce the storage rings in the 9 provinces. People complained to the Buddhists that their storage rings couldn't defend against enemies and requested reinforcement of the defensive power of storage rings. The bodhisattvas and arhats of the Buddhist sect were almost driven to foul language. Would a storage ring that can fight enemies even be called a storage ring? In view of the people's requirements, the Buddhists produced a new type of inventory product, TNE storage smelled. Later, when Zhang Li became stronger and no longer relied on this strategy, production of the storage shield gradually ceased. And there's your immortal peach tree. Even though it can't leave red dust Pure Land, you can pluck and use the peaches to fend off enemies outside the red dust Pure Land. When you encounter enemies, feed them a peach. But what if the enemy is a man? Surely, an immortal peach can't get men pregnant, can it? Why fear? After all, the enemy wouldn't know, and wouldn't dare to gamble. Pure Heart thought to herself, they wouldn't dare to gamble, but neither would we. What if it really gets them pregnant? Whose responsibility would that be? Of course, if an enemy is too powerful and you really can't win, there's a final method. What is it? Call me for help. Sure sounds right, but I feel like something is off. Then Pure Heart figured it out. Given her current status and level, it was unlikely for her to confront life or death situations in the 9 provinces. The fights now were mostly friendly spars. Everyone is sparring, and if you call on a powerhouse from the Mahayana realm, how would that look? Would there even be a fight? As Zhang Li was about to leave the red dust Pure Land, Sect Master Clear Desire looked sad and said heavily, "Take care." Zhang Li was puzzled. "Wait a minute, what do you mean by saying, take care?" Zhang Li stopped Sect Master Clear Desire. "You don't have to pretend to be strong." Everybody was very saddened by Captain Wood's departure. Clear Desire Sect Master had friction with Zhang Li, but he still admired the commanders of the Imperial Palace. "I just received a message from Captain Willow stating that Captain Wood accidentally passed away." Sect Master Clear Desire showed the remote communication talisman as he spoke. "Shoot, Captain Willow didn't really believe it, did he?" Zhang Li hurriedly pulled out his remote communication talisman, contacting Captain Willow. "Captain Willow, dressed in mourning clothes. Hall Master, when is the banquet?" "Captain Wood isn't dead, I was joking." Zhang Li clarified immediately upon meeting. Everybody was sad about Captain Wood's demise, but avoiding it isn't right. As the guardians of the 9 provinces in the Imperial Palace, we should learn to look forward. "Captain Wood isn't dead," Zhang Li emphasized again. "Really?" Captain Willow was still in disbelief. "Really, I stake all my cultivation power to guarantee that Captain Wood isn't dead." Quote. "In that case, I've selected several potential commanders for nothing." Captain Willow lamented, showing Zhang Li the results of his recent efforts. "Hall Master, look and see if there's anyone who catches your eye." It was a conversation between Willow and several cultivators from the body integration realm. They honed in on questions about intellect, obsession with romance, their preference for mingling with lower-ranked cultivators, and their outlook on life. They were all very targeted questions. Anyone who was bright, casual about love, not eager to show off in public, and positive was picked by Willow. Zhang Li felt that Captain Willow feigned mourning for Captain Wood as a ruse to shortlist new commanders. After all, Captain Willow was a cunning old man. How could he have not realized that Zhang Li was joking back then? "Perhaps we could consider having a new commander." Zhang Li nodded slightly. Based on the introductions, all these cultivators in the body integration realm seemed pretty decent. However, this matter couldn't be judged solely on surface appearances. They'd have to conduct a thorough investigation before drawing a conclusion. After all, according to Captain Willow's recollection, when they chose Zhang Konggu and others as commanders, they all behaved quite appropriately. Who knew once they became commanders, problems started popping up. They grew faster than leaks. Why is Pure Heart in the list? Zhang Li noticed that Pure Heart was also included in Captain Willow's list and that she even responded to all of Captain Willow's questions. Pure Heart is selfless and willing to dedicate herself to the human emperor. Of course, she can become a commander. Willow spoke seriously, hinting at something in his words. "She's not suitable. I'll assess these people myself." Zhang Li immediately dismissed Pure Heart and decided to personally select candidates. Setting aside other issues, at the very least, he should choose someone down-to-earth and diligent. "You haven't told any other forces about Captain Wood's funeral, right?" "No, that's good." After Zhang Li left, Captain Willow contacted Sect Master Clear Desire. "Pity, we still couldn't bring them together." Captain Willow sighed. He originally intended to integrate Pure Heart into the Imperial Palace to reduce the gap between her and the Hall Master, but it seemed they had failed at the first step. The intention of selecting new commanders was real, and so was the intention of incorporating Pure Heart into the Imperial Palace. One of these two is too shy to express true feelings, and the other has an unusual thought process. Heaven knows when they will get together. Sect Master Clear Desire also sighed. If her disciple kept not expressing herself, and if someday Zhang Li fancied any other woman, the silly disciple wouldn't even have a place to cry. She also hoped they would establish their relationship sooner. Chapter 213. The 3 Cardinal Rules. Dream River Dynasty, Chaoshan City. Beyond the Dream River Imperial City, this is the most bustling city teeming with ceaseless human activities. Zhang Li left the Red Dust Pure Land and came here. Dream River Dynasty was adjacent to the Red Dust Pure Land, and there happened to be one person in Chaoshan City whom General Lu was scouting. Zhang Li couldn't find anything from face-to-face investigations conducted by General Lu, so he decided to approach it from the surrounding environment. Candied Ha, various kinds of candied Ha. I'll have a skewer of candied Ha, not the hawthorn one, but the strawberries next to it. Here you go, sir. I'll have one of each kind. Skip the silkworm pupa. Zhang Li plans to bring some snacks back for the Red Dust Fairy. I am from Dazhou. I've heard that there's a teacher Dong in our Chaoshan City. I came especially to visit him. Dazhou, That's really quite far. The Candied Ha seller was surprised. The Dream River Dynasty was on the west side of Zhou, while Dazhou was in the east, implying the customer must have come to Dream River Dynasty through the recently popular spatial channel. Teacher Dong's fame was such that it attracted people from other dynasties to Dream River Dynasty. The vendor felt proud. Teacher Dong can be said to be the pride of our Chaoshan city. He is knowledgeable about Confucianism, he is deeply erudite, he is courteous and treats his students equally regardless of their household background, whether it is a prestigious household or a poor family. Teacher Dong teaches everyone the same thing, it doesn't matter who pays more. Teacher Dong also imposes strict requirements on his descendants, warning them to not be arrogant or to look down on others. If they dare to do so, they will be kicked out of the house. Zhang Li listened with a smile. The peddler, noticing that a wealthy person like Zhang Li actually bothered to listen to him, became more talkative. Teacher Dong is undoubtedly a highly cultivated individual. Some of the city's noble households and gangs who thought of themselves as influential tried to force him to become a private tutor for their forces. No one knew what happened afterward, but the noble households and gangs stopped causing trouble and peacefully sent their children to Teacher Dong. The vendor lowered his voice and said, "It's rumored that Teacher Dong is a god transformation stage cultivator." Zhang Li responded with an appropriately surprised expression. The vendor was pleased with Zhang Li's reaction and gave him an extra skewer of candied ha. Zhang Li firmly refused. "I really don't eat silkworm pupa." Zhang Li continued to stroll around other stalls, buying goods and asking questions, with the answers he got more or less the same. Teacher Dong, who had been teaching for over a decade, was a disciplined and excellent teacher. However, nobody guessed higher, they all speculated that Teacher Dong was a seclusive god transformation stage cultivator. Body integration realm was too remote to ordinary citizens. Although Chaoshan City was known as the second largest city in the dynasty, it didn't even have a single body integration realm cultivator. Who would choose the second largest city if they could go to the largest city? Body integration realm cultivators from the Dream River dynasty either held official positions in the court or joined a sect. Not one of them was in Chaoshan City. Of course, Teacher Dong was body integration realm, the only one in Chaoshan City. What a reclusive personality. Zhang Li had a good impression of Teacher Dong. It must have been hard for General Liu to find a seclusive body integration realm cultivator. "So, your son is the rumored student of Teacher Dong." Zhang Li looked at the man in front of him, a humble farmer with a plain appearance. His family could even be said to be poor. It seemed Teacher Dong truly didn't care about social status and was willing to teach anyone. "What's all this about rumors?" The old farmer laughed. "Teacher Dong is approachable and doesn't have the airs of a cultivator." "Dad, I'm going to school." A young boy carrying a cloth bag said goodbye to the old farmer. "Wait a moment, could I also attend one of Teacher Dong's classes?" There was hesitation in the boy's eyes. Zhang Li seemed young but looked older than a teenager, there was nobody his age in Teacher Dong's school. It's never too late to start learning. Zhang Li did not think there was anything unsuitable about attending a class with a group of children at his age. The boy thought Zhang Li made sense and thus brought him along. "Teacher Dong, this elder brother would like to sit in on a lesson." "Hello, Teacher Dong. My name is Ding Li, from the Dazhou clan. I have been traveling and heard of your reputation, and I'd like to disturb one of your classes." The students in the tutor's school laughed quietly seeing Zhang Li, who was much older. Teacher Dong frowned and tapped the lectern with his ruler, laughing, "What's so funny? This is the attitude towards learning, you all should learn from Ding Li. Your parents sent you here not to loaf around or slack off. Don't think just because you are from good families you can skip learning. The ancient saint once said, 'My life has its limits, but knowledge has none. To use the limited to pursue the unlimited is a peril.' The human emperor also said, 'Learning is endless.' Are you better than the ancient saint or the human emperor, thinking that you no longer need to learn?" Scared of Teacher Dong's iron ruler, the students dared not laugh anymore. Zhang Li didn't say anything and took a seat in the back. "Today, we are going to learn about the 3 cardinal guides. The king guides his subjects, the father guides his son, and the husband guides his wife. These are the 3 cardinal guides. Being the subject, it is innate for one to be obedient to their king. If the king wants the subject dead, the subject must die. Being the son, it is innate for one to be obedient to their father. If the father desires the son dead, the son must die. As for the husband guiding the wife, the rule is the woman obeys her father at home, her husband when she gets married and her son when her husband dies. Take for example, the Dream River Emperor is the king and a 9th rank official is the subject. By nature, the subject must obey the king. Even if the official is a body integration realm cultivator, it can't change the fact that he is a subject. Whatever the Dream River Emperor tells the subject to do, the subject must do. What if the king is wrong? Zhang Li asked. Silence. I've just explained the 3 cardinal guides, and you show such disrespect. The teacher hasn't finished talking, how could a student interject? The Dong who was on the lecture platform was much stricter than before, sternly reprimanding Zhang Li. Seeing Zhang Li put down his hand and stop speaking, Teacher Dong was pleased and answered Zhang Li's question. How can the king be wrong? The founding emperor of the Dream River dynasty was a wise ruler. His sons inherited his bloodline, naturally possessing the demeanor of a wise king. The founding emperor chose his most talented son as the second emperor, thus the second emperor was surely a wise one. This continued through generations, hence the current Dream River emperor is undoubtedly a wise ruler. I know you might have doubts, thinking sometimes the Dream River emperor makes wrong decisions. This is not the emperor's fault but due to some officials not fulfilling their duties honestly, leading the emperor to make wrong judgments, perhaps some officials having ill intentions to misguide. If all officials performed their duties, how could the king make a mistake? Zhang Li remembered the occasion where the Dream River Emperor and Emperor Wei almost initiated a national-scale war over the Red Dust Fairy. This had nothing to do with the subjects. If you can't understand the example of the Dream River Emperor, let me give you another typical example, the human emperor. What is the human emperor? He is the ruler of the human race, the ruler of all beings. All beings in JoJo regard the human emperor as their ruler. Whether ordinary cultivators or dynasty emperors, all are subjects of the human emperor. The human emperor is the king, and everyone else is the subject. Zhang Li's brow furrowed little by little. Chapter 214, Sacrificing a Son, Benefiting Others. The human emperor is the guardian of JoJo, looking back over 9,000 years of history, protecting JoJo nearly 100 times, letting the extraterrestrial heavenly demons depart never to return. We all owe our lives to the human emperor. Not to mention the current emperor Zhang Li, he has killed many heavenly demons. His military achievements are outstanding, breaking through to the Mahayana realm, achieving a feat that has not been seen in 9,000 years, comparable to the ancient legends of powerful entities and immortals. What does this mean? It means that Emperor Zhang Li, by the mandate of heaven, is the chosen one, the son of heaven. We cultivators should comply with the heavenly Tao and serve Emperor Zhang. Although theoretically, the human emperor and the sovereigns of the 9 great dynasties are considered equal, or perhaps half a notch above, in reality, the human emperor is above all, a natural-born ruler, and thus reigns one level above the sovereigns. The sovereigns should see themselves as subjects and regard the human emperor as their ruler. Mr. Dong spoke incessantly and eloquently, lifting the status of the human emperor to an unattainable height. According to Mr. Dong's theory, Zhang Li felt that he was more than just the ruler of JoJo, he was practically the master of the immortal realm. Does Mr. Dong usually talk about the 3 cardinal guides with you? Asked Zhang Li to the students nearby. The students shook their heads. Today is the first time we've heard about the concept of the 3 cardinal guides. The 3 cardinal guides were discussed all morning, while the afternoon was spent on cultivation-related content, using the textbook, General Guidelines for Cultivation, written by Zhang Li. This gave Zhang Li a sense of returning to his time at the Great Zhou Dynasty Academy where he was the worst-ranking student. However, unlike then, Mr. Dong did not stick to doctrines in his teaching, but rather broke down the knowledge, dissecting it and explaining it in detail. The students below the stage were completely fascinated. Regardless of Mr. Dong's ideological issues, there was no fault to be found in his delivery of cultivation knowledge. He was dedicated and thorough, not holding back anything. He even explained to the students some things that only those at the body integration realm would know. One could imagine that these students would save a lot of detours in the future and surpass their peers. This is the virtue of education. This indicates that Mr. Dong indeed possesses commendable conduct. Does Mr. Dong usually discuss cultivation theories with you? Zhang Li continued to ask the students next to him. Yes, this is what we usually study. Neither was Zhang Li dissatisfied with Mr. Dong and chose to leave, nor did he feel that he was a suitable person to inform him to report to the Imperial Palace the next day. When Zhang Li left the private school, he coincidentally ran into Mr. Dong's son who was coming to bring food to Mr. Dong. He was 17 or 18 years old, with a dual spiritual root attribute, but his cultivation level was mediocre, only at the 5th layer of Qi cultivation. Mr. Dong's son was well-mannered, courteous to everyone he met, including Zhang Li, of course. Zhang Li had heard that Mr. Dong values family education and holds himself and his family to high standards. Now, it seems to be true. You are Mr. Dong's son? Yes. Mr. Dong's son didn't know why Zhang Li stopped him. You have good talent, why are you only at the 5th layer of Qi cultivation? Mr. Dong's son does not have an obstructed meridian, nor does he have a mysterious entity absorbing his cultivation level. He is not an example of accumulating slowly to deliver suddenly to solidify the foundation, he simply is at the 5th layer of qi cultivation. The dual spiritual root attribute was like a decorative article that did not benefit Mr. Dong's son at all. Hasn't Mr. Dong taught you how to cultivate? Father has explained that Emperor Zhongli hopes for a dojo where everyone can cultivate and become cultivators. If I cultivate and become a golden core or nascent soul cultivator, it will consume huge resources. These consumed resources can be used to nurture many other cultivators. In Jojo, those at the 3rd layer of qi cultivation are ordinary people, while those at the 4th layer are cultivators. Zhongli is indeed dedicated to promoting cultivation methods, discarding sect prejudices, fostering mutual exchange, and striving to enable more ordinary people to become cultivators. Being my father's son, of course, I should respect my father, take the emperor as my ruler, obey my father's orders, and follow the emperor's intentions, forsaking myself for the benefit of millions. Unfortunately, I still cannot control myself very well and fail to live up to my father's expectations. In my daily activities, I can't help but absorb spiritual energy and cultivate to 2 levels higher than ordinary people, becoming a level 5 qi cultivator. I am deeply ashamed. Mr. Dong's son lowered his head in shame. By occupying these 2 levels of spiritual energy, haven't I deprived 2 individuals who could have been level 4 cultivators? Quite an interesting perspective there. Zhongli left the place and contacted sect hierarch Dong Zongshu. The materials that Captain Lu gave to Zhongli clearly stated Mr. Dong's identity. Mr. Dong's full name is Dong Wuwei, a descendant of the founding patriarch of Confucianism, Dong Zongshu. He is the older brother of the sect hierarch of Confucianism, Dong Zongshu. He had left Confucianism due to differences in philosophy. For decades, he has had no contact with Confucianism and fits the neutral stance of a captain of the imperial palace. What do you know about Dong Wuwei? Dong Wuwei, you've met him. Dong Zongshu was slightly surprised, then immediately answered Zhongli's question. Dong Wuwei and I are blood brothers. He greatly admires our ancestor, Dong Zongshu, especially the theory of the interaction of heaven and man. He believes that the ruler's power is granted by heaven, and thus equivalent to the will of heaven, which cannot dedetlik el. Tiner snolde a strict order in TNE world. Our views are diametrically opposed. He accuses me of heresy, while I accuse him of forcing a square peg into a round hole. We argue back and forth, and eventually decided to resolve it in the Confucian way. We both became the state preceptor of a country, assisting the king with our philosophies. We agreed to see, after 10 years, whose country is stronger. In the end, the power of the country I served far surpassed the country where Dong Wuwei served and naturally, we won. But Dong Wuwei believed that I had cheated and refused to admit defeat, demanding another competition. He accused me of cheating without evidence. If I agreed to another competition, wouldn't it imply that I indeed cheated? When I flatly refused, he was wholeheartedly convinced that I had cheated. He then left the sect, saying he would prove himself right. I have waited for decades, yet I haven't seen him proving anything. I see. Zhongli had a rough idea of Dong Wuwei's thoughts. Zhongli was sitting in a tea house, ordering a pot of tea and some pastries, waiting for Dong Wuwei to appear. After finishing his class, Mr. Dong left the private school with his son. Zhongli waved to him, and he asked his son to leave, then he approached Zhongli curiously. Did I not explain something clearly during my class, Mr. Ding Li? Do you have any questions? It's not easy for you to make a trip from the Great Zhou, I must not let you go back with lingering doubts. Quote. Dong Wuwei, stop pretending, you know who I am, and I know who you are. Zhongli spoke straightforwardly. Captain Lu had just questioned Dong Wuwei and asked him some questions. Given Dong Wuwei's intelligence, how could he not know that this was the first evaluation for recruiting captains for the Imperial Palace? A few days later, a man named Li from the Great Zhou arrived to see him. Considering the man's extraordinary eloquence, it could be easily guessed that it was Zhong Li. The first lesson about the 3 cardinal guides and the emperor's rule, with the rest being his subjects, was not aimed at the students but at Zhong Li. Dong Wuwei hoped to move Zhong Li with this theory and make himself a captain of the Imperial Palace. According to his theory, it was not just about Dong Wuwei wanting to become a captain. He also intended for Zhong Li to reign supreme, abolish the 100 countries, and solely exalt the human emperor. Just like his ancestor, Dong Zongshu. Chapter 215. The human emperor is no better than the emperor of heaven. Speaking of Dong Zhongshu, one must inevitably mention the predecessor of the Great Wei Dynasty, the Great Han Dynasty. After founding Confucianism, Dong Zhongshu, not content with the status quo, desired to expand its influence. He contacted the Han Emperor of the time, stating that the founding of the Great Han, following the Han ancestral emperor's slaying of the White Serpent, was in accordance with the will of heaven. He proposed that it should be called Heavenly Han and shouldn't be confined to a single state. Its territory should span all of the 9 provinces. At that time, the Great Han was thriving, showing signs of surpassing the Great Zhou. It was ranked first among the 9 provinces. Furthermore, the Han Emperor himself was a sky indulgence cultivator who had reached the transcendence tribulation stage. He was superior to the Zhou Emperor of that time. These factors fueled the ambition of the Han Emperor to conquer the 9 provinces. However, the path to immortality had not been severed. Every power had an immortal behind them. The ancestors of the Great Han were only one among these many immortals. In such circumstances, a valid theory was needed to establish the legitimate status of the Great Han, such that the dynasty could justifiably exert its power. Dong Zhongshu's theory of Tianren Gamming suited the intentions of the Han Emperor perfectly. Regardless of the immortals, the heavens stood with the Han after all. The Han Emperor had already decided. He would not utterly destroy those forces that had immortals behind them but chose to preserve their heritage and lineage. All he demanded from those forces was recognition of the Great Han's status. By leaving a way out for them, the immortals would turn a blind eye, and they would not interfere in the affairs of the lower realm to make trouble for the Great Han. In the end, the Great Han failed. It hadn't succeeded in abolishing all states to render the Han supreme. However, the strength and prowess of the Great Han were laid bare for all to see, eliciting the envy of other forces. Despite defeat, the Great Han emerged from the ordeal with honor. The defeat in this war that spanned the 9 provinces did not undermine the foundations of the Great Han. The establishment of the Great Wei Dynasty was not a result of this conflict either. This war helped spread Confucian ideals, establishing Confucianism's status and elevating it to a significant force across the 9 provinces. Its influence was far-reaching enough to rival Buddhism. Therefore, Dong Zhongshu had attained his objectives. Zhang Li suspected that Dong Wuwei wanted to regain the glory of his ancestors. What a wishful thinker. Dong Wuwei, you knew that the imperial palace would recruit commanders, but you weren't sure whether it would be decades or centuries from now. Hence, you made early preparations, awaiting my arrival. Firstly, you left Confucianism, declaring your neutrality, a prerequisite for joining the imperial palace. Of course, I believe that you genuinely want to leave Confucianism, seeing as it is now controlled by Dong Zhongren. Dong Wuwei wanted to defend himself, but Zhang Li interrupted him. To become a commander, one must possess upright character and refrain from theft. While other body integration realm cultivators might find this challenging, it's relatively easy for you, as these attributes form the basis for all Confucian disciples. Although all 5 commanders have little flaws, their overall character is still acceptable. The quality of body integration realm cultivators in the 9 provinces varies. Some people strive to become powerful in order to not be oppressed by the mighty. Some people pursue power to oppress the weak. Others, unwilling to be oppressed, acquire power and then compromise their initial intentions to live off ill-gotten gains, joining hands with other power wielders to oppress the weak. The latter 2 types are unacceptable to the imperial palace. As for the dauntless alliance of Great Sway, they belong to the latter 2 categories. But you thought mere moral uprightness wouldn't suffice, that you weren't competitive enough to outdo other potential commanders. Hence, you chose to live in seclusion here, educating students to prove that you are a respected and admired scholar. This isn't hard to deduce. Dong Wuwei, who aims to restore the glory of his ancestors, wouldn't sulk in a corner and become a school teacher here after losing a competition against Dong Zhongren, would he? His teachings aim to prove to Zhang Li that he is an honorable teacher. Of course, actions speak louder than intentions. Regardless of your intentions, you have indeed mentored several excellent students, a fact that no one can deny. But for the sake of showing your loyalty to me, you forbid your son from cultivating. You sacrificed your son's future for the chance of someone ordinary to become a cultivator. You want to follow in the footsteps of Yi Ya. In ancient times, a monarch jokingly told a chef named Yi Ya that he had grown tired of mundane delicacies but hadn't tasted a baby yet. So Yi Ya cooked his 3-year-old son to serve the monarch. Impressed by his devotion, the monarch trusted Yi Ya even more. I intended to increase the number of cultivators but never said those with better talents should give their opportunities to those with less. In your eyes, those with greater talent should yield to those with less, right? Being your son is the most unfortunate thing in his life. Quote. You forbid your son from cultivating, yet I see you haven't given up your own cultivation to transfer it to someone else. Zhang Li was furious. While others allowed their sons to begin cultivation at 8, Dong Wuwei prevented his son from cultivating at the same age. He had ruined his son's life. An 18-year-old at the 5th level of qi cultivation, just like Zhang Li when he first crossed over here. Could it be assumed that everyone could rise to the top starting from scratch? Dong Wuwei was quiet, with nothing to say in his defense. Every word from Zhang Li was factual. In order to promote his ideologies, he had to get closer to Zhang Li. The closest position to Zhang Li was the commander's. The imperial palace would inevitably need to replace its commanders sooner or later. He had made advanced preparations, modeling himself as an upright, model citizen who idolized the human emperor, hoping to win a few brownie points with Zhang Li. Now it seemed like his carefully crafted image was too overpowering, inadvertently arousing Zhang Li's displeasure. Dong Wuwei quickly said, the issue about my son is my mistake, and I can change it. But my loyalty to you is true. As the human emperor, the strongest in the 9 provinces, don't you harbor ambitions of reigning over everything? The doctrine of 3 duties and the heaven man theory I've propagated are all for preparations of your dominance over the world. Zhang Li sneered, dominance over the world. For whom? Is it to make the 9 provinces stronger or to satisfy my selfish desires? Cultivators need to struggle, so the imperial palace chose to let the forces in the 9 provinces compete amongst themselves, developing each other. Even during the times of the heavenly demons, there weren't plans to unify the 9 provinces. Not to mention now when the heavenly demons are no longer a threat, and the 9 provinces are free from external turmoil. The provinces will become lax. With the pressure from other powers, there's still motivation to move forward. To unify the 9 provinces now would like turning it into stagnant waters. And the doctrine of 3 duties, is any of the 3 duties right? The sovereign should rule over his subjects. Is the monarch's command absolute? If a monarch makes a mistake, is it always his subjects' fault? Do you think every monarch is a saint incapable of making mistakes? A father should rule over his son. You are a prime example of this. Following your commands, your son's life has been ruined. Husbands should rule over their wives. Discrimination against female cultivators. Since both are cultivators, should the wife view her husband as her lord? Has the husband's face grown so large that a woman can't live without a man? Ask the women from the Red Dust Pure Land or the Buddhist nuns, see if any of them agree with your views. Your heaven man theory is even more absurd. The human emperor is the leader of humanity, yet in your mouth, he has become heaven's son. Do you think a son of heaven is superior to a human emperor? How can a human emperor be inferior to a son of heaven? Loyalty towards me, doing it all for my sake. Ridiculous. All of it is clearly for your own benefit. After Yiya cooked his son, a courtier told the monarch that because Yiya didn't even love his son, he certainly couldn't love his monarch. The monarch didn't take this seriously. In the end, Yiya indeed revolted. Chapter 216, Representative Figure of the Great Zhou Legal Code. When Dong Wuwei proposed the 3 cardinal guides, he was doomed not to become a commander in the imperial palace, let alone sacrificing his own son. This is a man who will do anything for his ideals. Zhang Li could guarantee that if he was recruited to the imperial palace, he would work harder than Zhang Konggu, and the annual spirit stone reward he received would be more than other commanders. But his beliefs were contradictory to Zhang Li's. Dong Wuwei wanted to become Dong Zongshu, but Zhang Li was not the Han emperor. Your ambitions are too big, too complex, perhaps some monarch might agree with your views, but it wouldn't be me. Zhang Li left it at that and left. Being straightforwardly rejected by the ideal ruler he envisaged, Dong Wuwei felt mixed emotions, as if the pursuit of his life had been cut off, leaving no way forward. All the preparations of these 20 years had been in vain. Dong Wuwei sat in the tea house, drinking 1 cup of cold tea after another. Father. Dong Wuwei's son found his father sitting in the tea house. In Dong Wuwei's son's impression, his father was always ambitious, had ideals, and was never seen to be disheartened. Dong Wuwei, who had a child after living in seclusion, did not tell his son his origins. Sire, is my belief wrong? Dong Wuwei asked subconsciously. Dong Shi did not answer. Seeing his son silent, Dong Wuwei felt somewhat relieved. No matter what he had done, at least his son still considered him a good father with no flaws. So he encouraged, you don't have to hesitate. Think carefully, even if it's a small mistake. Dong Shi shook his head. Father, if you ask Sire to say, Sire will naturally say it. It's just that Zaire thinks you are wrong in so many ways that I don't know where to start. I was just organizing my thoughts. Dong Wuwei was stunned. Dong Shi really did obey his father's orders, but he never thought it was right. For instance, you say, ruler is the guiding principle for officials, thinking that as long as the officials follow the monarch's words, they can govern the country well, which is one-sided. You only see the relationship between the ruler and the officials, but not the relationship between the ruler and the people. When a monarch dies and his heir succeeds him, the country is still the same country. Quote, but when the people die, national fortune disappears, the country loses meaning, the country is no longer, showing that the state is rooted in the people. Although Dong Zai's thinking was naive and flawed, the underlying thought was very different from Dong Wuwei's. It was then that Dong Wuwei realized that he only saw his son as proof of his selflessness, and never truly understood his son. He finally realized that he was wrong, very wrong. His son is not a tool, nor a vessel to inherit his thoughts, he is an individual with his own thoughts. Stop talking. Dong Wuwei's voice was trembling. Dong Shi obediently stopped talking, thinking he had said something wrong. Do you still want to cultivate? Father can help you. Dong Shi has wasted precious 10 years, which Dong Wuwei could fully make up for with his body integration realm abilities. Dong Wuwei began to reconsider whether his long-held beliefs were correct, whether he had misinterpreted his ancestor Dong Zongshu, or perhaps his ancestor was wrong in the first place. He couldn't figure it out for a while, so he decided to stay here, to make up for his son's lost time, to care for his wife, and to teach his students. Zhang Li, who had concealed his aura, saw this scene and finally left to find the next candidate for commander. The second commander candidate was a loose cultivator. The fact that he could cultivate to the body integration realm as a loose cultivator was an indication of his talents. Moreover, after this loose cultivator reached the body integration realm, he didn't establish a family or join any organization and has remained solitary till now. He shared the same hometown as Zhang Li, both from the Great Zhou. This loose cultivator had been famous for a long time. When Zhang Li was only in the foundation establishment stage, he had heard of him, a well-known cultivator in the body integration realm. Now that Zhang Li had reached the Mahayana realm, the other party was still a famous cultivator at the body integration realm in the Great Zhou. When Zhang Li found him, he was pleading with a Great Zhou official. I beg you, please annul my records of criminal offenses. A few days ago, Commander Liu of the Imperial Palace included me in the list of alternative commanders. What if the Emperor thinks I am good enough to be a commander, and then looks into my scores of past offenses and dismisses me? What a loss it would. Du Quan, you're a citizen of the Great Zhou, you know the rules. The Minister of Public Affairs looked at Du Quan helplessly. This man was all too familiar, there was not a single citizen in the Great Zhou who didn't know him. Wine immortal Du Ping, a notorious lawbreaker. The number of times he had been sent to prison far exceeded the number of times he had entered his own home. He was reputed to be a model of the Great Zhou's legal code and a pioneer in lawbreaking. The Great Zhou authorities frequently used Du Quan as an example to the people, showing them that even a cultivator in the body integration realm would be sent to prison if they broke the law. The example Zhang Li heard when he was in the Great Zhou was like this. Du Ping, a cultivator at the body integration realm, got drunk and rolled around shirtless on the street in his sleep. This severely disrupted public order and set a bad example. He was fined 500 lower-grade spirit stones for violating public security laws and detained for 10 days. The Department of Public Affairs reminds, drinking and breaking the law will be punished equally. Drink rationally, do not imitate Du Ping by indulging in the effects of alcohol and deliberately resisting sobering up. Du Ping, a cultivator at the body integration realm, purchased counterfeit liquor and demanded 10 times the compensation from the merchant. The merchant responded by compensating him with 10 jars of counterfeit liquor. Angered, Du Ping wreaked havoc in the merchant's shop. The merchant was charged with selling counterfeit liquor. He was ordered to recall all the fake liquor he had sold and incarcerated in jail for 3 months. Du Ping damaged other people's property and violated public security regulations. He was detained for 15 days. The Department of Public Affairs reminds, please seek legal help when faced with difficulties, do not act impulsively and break the law. And there were many other examples like these. After Zhang Li left the Great Zhou, he didn't pay much attention to this cultivator who was on the Great Zhou's blacklist. He remembered that the Department of Public Affairs had a research topic discussing how to prevent Du Ping from committing crimes. Rules, I understand. Du Ping giggled, took out a storage ring and handed it to the Minister of Public Affairs. There are 8,000 high-grade spirit stones in here. Seeing it like a snake or scorpion, the Minister of Public Affairs promptly slapped the storage ring to the ground. "Duping, you dare to bribe. You're trying to ruin me." Bribery by officials of the Great Zhou, once discovered, led to incarceration in the heavenly prison. No, Duping quickly denied it. "Then the rules you're talking about are?" The Minister of Public Affairs glared at him. "Of course, if you break the law, don't think about getting your case expunged. Then can't I join the Imperial Palace? Every time you touch alcohol, you lose your senses. I've told you many times to drink less and not be impulsive. Every time you say it won't happen again. When I first started as a police officer, the first person I arrested was you for drunk misconduct. Now I have become the Minister of Public Affairs, and you're still committing drunk misconduct." The Minister of Public Affairs pointed to 3 stacks of case files beside him. "These are all the things you've done over the past few centuries. If they were destroyed, that would mean he would no longer have a criminal record." Duping was tempted. The Minister of Public Affairs snorted. "Don't say I didn't warn you. Destroying case files is a crime, more serious than breaking the law. And these have all been copied onto jade slips, so destroying them is useless." Duping collapsed in disappointment. Chapter 217. Practice leads to real knowledge. The Great Zhou law distinguishes very finely between illegalities and crimes, while other countries tend to merge the two concepts. Illegalities pertain to the violation of civil laws and public security regulations. Crimes pertain to the violation of criminal laws. But what's the point of drinking if you are consciously pacing and decreasing its effects? I didn't ask you to reduce the effects of alcohol, but also not to vent your drunken rage. The Minister of Personnel corrected Duping's concept. "Also, have you been flying under the influence of alcohol again recently?" "Indeed, by regulations, I have violated the 165th clause of the Public Security Regulation, detention of 15 days. When are you planning on detaining me?" Duping recited the legislation backwards fluidly. His understanding of the laws was beyond the ordinary, and he was more familiar with Great Zhou's prison than any jailer. Some eager learners even sought advice from Duping on legal matters and prison management. The Great Zhou forbids flying under the influence as it could easily lead to inadequate control over the body during flight, resulting in a crash to the ground. You could even end up crashing into someone else. Duping often violated this regulation. He was all too familiar with it. Now it has been changed. His Majesty considers this conduct excessively reprehensible, hence, being inebriated before flight has been shifted from public security regulation to criminal law. In other words, you are not breaking the law, but committing a crime. According to the regulations, you must be jailed for 6 months. Duping was shocked. When was it changed? It was promulgated on the 1st of last month and implemented from the 1st of this month. You were flying under the influence on the 2nd. If it wasn't for your surprised expression, I would have thought you committed the crime deliberately at the right time. The Minister of Personnel said bluntly. I just like to drink, not breaking laws or committing crimes. Who knows? Zhang Li thought that 500 years would have been long enough for Duping to behave properly. Now it appears, this great cultivator who explored the laws with his own body, continues his string of wrongdoings without making a single change. This clearly reflects his steadfast determination. The Minister of Personnel was quite troubled by Duping. A body integration realm cultivator obediently accepting punishment could indeed demonstrate that in front of the Great Zhou's laws, cultivators and commoners are equals. But if he constantly moves in and out of the jail, wouldn't it be problematic? Treating jail as home hardly reflects the punitive aspect of the law. Where does it put the dignity of Great Zhou's law? The biggest achievement of the Minister of Personnel is punishing a body integration realm cultivator several hundred times. His biggest stain, however, is punishing the same body integration realm cultivator several hundred times. The Minister of Personnel now wished to see Duping leave the Great Zhou. Please give us of the Department of Personnel some reprieve. Duping denied the minister's request and decidedly said, as a citizen of the Great Zhou in life and in death, there's no possibility of me leaving. The Great Zhou is my home, I love it. Duping violated each regulation in the public security law, from engaging prostitutes to gambling and participating in street fights. The Minister of Personnel almost couldn't believe it. A lofty body integration realm cultivator actually suppressed his power levels to brawl with hooligans when drunk. As a fellow body integration realm cultivator, I'm embarrassed for you. The Minister of Personnel considered Duping a disgrace to all body integration realm cultivators. The minister even suggested to Gigi that a new set of laws be enacted, called the Duping Laws, designed specifically to punish Duping. However, Gigi rejected the proposal on the basis that there should be no law specific to any one person. Now Du Ping, who no longer violates the public security regulation, started to advance towards criminal laws. Please, dear God, send someone to take this calamity away. Du Ping. Zhang Li appeared. Ya, Zhang Human Emperor. Du Ping was overjoyed to see Zhang Li, as if he had seen his superior. As cultivators of 9 provinces, everyone strove to become the human emperor. If they could not become the human emperor, many cultivators aspired to join the imperial palace. Du Ping was no exception. Human emperor. The Minister of Personnel paid respects to Zhang Li. The Minister of Personnel was Gigi's confidant. Zhang Li had encountered him numerous times when seeking Gigi. Are all these your criminal records? Zhang Li walked towards the 3 piles of case files towering over him. As he began perusing them, he felt Du Ping's life could be summed up in one sentence. He spent his early life toiling in training so he could waste his later years in jail. The minister reminded Zhang Li, about 500 years ago, Du Ping's case files only made up 1.5 piles. You have quite a few offenses. Zhang Li sighed. That shows I abide by the law. Du Ping explained. Zhang Li was speechless. Indeed, after Du Ping committed offenses, he obediently took his punishment. The sanctions were also legally stipulated, so one could say that he was obedient to the law. Most of your offenses are due to drinking. My cultivation technique revolves around alcohol. Without drinking, I can't cultivate. Du Ping's issue wasn't a serious one. Among body integration realm cultivators, he barely counts as being morally upstanding. Those who commit minor offenses aren't entirely unwanted. For instance, the 2 leaders Ma Zhou, who had been arrested in Dayong before for selling unhealthy books. If they lived in the Great Zhou, the number of times they'd enter prison might not be less than Du Ping. However, Zhang Li still wanted a normal body integration realm cultivator. He thought that within the imperial palace there was only himself and General Lu who were normal among all body integration realm cultivators. If you could control your alcohol without offending the law or committing a crime, I would consider allowing you to join the imperial palace. Zhang Li loosened his grip slightly, not having new offenses or crimes on your record for the next 50 years. Du Ping gritted his teeth. Okay. 50 years isn't a long time for a body integration realm cultivator. Worst case scenario, he will retreat from the world and meditate for 50 years. Those 50 years of retreat don't count. Zhang Li reminded him. The minister chimed in, the human emperor worries too much. Even during his retreat, Du Ping can get drunk and offend the law. You could refer to the 127th volume of Du Ping's case file. Zhang Li found the case file referred to by the minister. According to it, during his retreat, Du Ping experienced alcohol withdrawal, wandered off in his sleep, experiencing astral travel for thousands of miles, end up in a bar drinking, and then left with an air of nonchalance to continue his retreat, without paying with spirit stones. The bottle of alcohol wasn't expensive, so it didn't reach the level of criminal law. Otherwise, the minister would definitely have punished him with charges of theft. Although it didn't constitute a theft, it was still an act of theft, so he was penalized according to the public security regulation. Zhang Li thought that Du Ping will probably never leave this jail in his lifetime. After Zhang Li left, Du Ping leaned over to write a letter. The minister curiously asked, "What are you writing?" "I feel there are some areas where the Great Zhou law student needs modifying. The punishment for flying when drunk is too harsh. It doesn't conform to the principle of crimes fitting the corresponding punishment. I'm writing to the court to express my suggestion, proposing to replace it with probation, or to reduce the sentence. Great Zhou welcomes its citizens to provide their opinions and suggestions on its laws." The Minister of Personnel was silent. Du Ping's extensive law-breaking history had given him a profound understanding of the law. Many a time he wrote to the court, pointing out errors in the laws. Great Zhou had even considered granting him a banner, to commend his contributions in the field of law. "Here, this is done." Du Ping handed the letter to the minister. The letter contained 10,000 words. The minister flipped through it and found it well written, easy to understand and accessible. Whether viewed from the theory of 4 key elements, or the 3 stages theory, it all made sense. He felt that Du Ping's understanding of the law was ingrained in him. Those unaware would think that this was written by a law student from Great Zhou Imperial Academy. Does this count as paper talks or shallow? One needs to practice to understand truly. Practice makes perfect. Chapter 218. Craftsmen who can't go home for the new year. Zhang Li arrived in Duokai Kingdom, finding festivities everywhere with firecrackers resounding, red lanterns hanging, and a celebratory atmosphere pervading the air. Everyone's faces were lit up with happy smiles. It's almost New Year. Only then did he realize, unknowingly, that the New Year had already approached. Low and middle-level cultivators, as well as ordinary people, would choose to go home for the New Year. Still, the majority of high-level cultivators seldom deliberately celebrate the New Year, as they often spend several years or even decades in seclusion. Therefore, a yearly festival isn't significant to them. If it happens, it happens. If not, so be it. Zhang Li also rarely celebrated the New Year. Having no sentiment for the Zhang family, he even actively avoided them. Therefore, his usual activities during the New Year involved visiting the imperial palace, taking a trip to the Dao sect, and catching up with old friends. It felt like celebrating the New Year, yet was also an ordinary routine. Influenced by the surrounding ambiance, Zhang Li no longer rushed his journey, and instead leisurely strolled through the streets. He saw little children donned in red cotton-padded jackets, playfully chasing after each other. So, he snapped off a small tree branch, squatted down, and used a spell to turn the branch into a sparkling firecracker toy, to the children's delight. He saw people writing spring festival couplets in the streets, penning down virile and vigorous characters. Zhang Li willingly approached, and with the person's agreement, wrote a pair of couplets himself, earning cheers from the onlookers. He saw vendors selling firecrackers and thus spontaneously bought bundles of them. He hung them on trees and lit them up as their loud crackling filled the air, causing an unconscious smile to spread across his face. The citizens of Duokai Kingdom loved lively activities. Every city would set up a stage for performances, including opera, a variety of dances, singing, instrumental performances, comic skits, and many other performances. The concept of comic skits was non-existent in the 9 provinces before Zhang Li became the human emperor. It was a new form of entertainment he proposed. Zhang Li enjoyed these performances alongside the people, chuckling and being amused by the comic skits. The third commander candidate, Lu Pin, the king of Duokai Kingdom, had established the kingdom 1,000 years ago in the eastern part of the 9 provinces. There are many nations of various sizes in the 9 provinces established by cultivators in the body integration realm or the divinity transformation stage. The larger ones could rival half a dynasty, while the smaller ones only consisted of a few cities. Duokai Kingdom was somewhere in between, as big as a provincial capital of a dynasty consisting of dozens of cities. The information that Commander Lu had provided stated that the king of Duokai Kingdom had his crown prince in place already and could resemble relinquishing the throne of the kingdom at any time. Perhaps influenced by the New Year's atmosphere, Zhang Li held Duokai Kingdom in a positive light and considered its king a reasonably competent monarch. Why are the people of Duokai Kingdom still working, even up to now? Seeing many ordinary people still busy repairing the roads, Zhang Li was quite surprised. These road workers, being migrants, were the most anxious group of people to return home for the New Year, eager to return before New Year's Day. So why were they not going home and were still fixing the roads? And why were they fixing the roads at night, even with the aid of lights? It seems that the people of Duokai Kingdom work much harder than ordinary people elsewhere in the 9 provinces. Zhang Li pondered aloud. Why are you guys still working? Why aren't you going home yet? Zhang Li asked as he approached one of the workers. A working man wiped his sweat with a towel hung around his neck, straightened up from his prolonged crouching position, and spat out, "Go home. To hell with it. I was ready to go home a few days ago with my luggage already packed, but our foreman stopped me with a single sentence. According to the foreman, someone might come for an inspection, so we need to work overtime to make sure the road is repaired before the New Year. If it's not repaired, we can't go home. I have been working with 3-hour breaks each day hoping to finish the task quickly and get home for the New Year. But it seems we won't finish in time no matter how hard we work. Damn it, is there any justice in this world? How are we supposed to celebrate the New Year?" These workers who couldn't return home for the New Year were cursing and complaining. Seeing that someone was willing to chat with them, they all began to complain to Zhang Li. If cultivators were assigned to repair the roads, efficiency would be much higher, but they would also be much more expensive than ordinary people, so local governments typically employed ordinary people for road repair. They've got people working during the New Year. Zhang Li was curious. Who knows, probably some official who doesn't like being at home and prefers running around inspecting things, even during the New Year. One of the workers retorted sharply. "Let me help you." Out of sympathy, Zhang Li took action. He left the workers dumbstruck as they saw the incredible abilities of a high-level cultivator. The dirt seemed to gain a life of its own, laying itself onto the road and automatically compressing itself. A brand new official road emerged before everyone. "Are you a cultivator, sir?" The workers thought he might be a golden core stage or even a nascent soul stage cultivator. Their attitude instantly became incredibly respectful, and they stopped cursing. You should be able to make it home in time for the new year now. Go home, Zhongli said with a smile. The workers thanked him profusely and would have kowtowed to him if he had not stopped them. Once the road was repaired, the workers couldn't just go home right away. They had to wait for the workforce foreman to sign off on the work. The foreman, hearing from the workers that a kind-hearted cultivator had helped them complete the road repair ahead of schedule, was greatly surprised. Inspecting the road, the foreman found that the quality of the cultivator's work far exceeded his expectations, effectively completing the task in advance and beyond the required quota. Zhongli called the foreman over and asked, "Which official is having you rush the repairs on the road during the new year?" The foreman hesitated a moment before answering truthfully, "To answer your question, it's not any specific official. I heard higher-ups saying that the human emperor Zhong may come to Duokai Kingdom. So they want us to finish the road before his arrival, and even if we can't finish it, it should look good enough to leave a favorable impression of Duokai Kingdom. As to why, I really wouldn't know." Zhongli was silent for a while. He used his divine sense to investigate and found similar situations playing out elsewhere. Some people were planting trees on the roadside, some were repairing buildings, and others were posting propaganda slogans like, "The 9 provinces is our shared home, Duokai Kingdom strictly enforces the requirements of the Imperial Palace, severely break the means left by the outer realm heavenly demons," and so on. These people all shared a common trait. All of them were ordinary people who wanted to go home for the new year but couldn't. After becoming a candidate for the commander of the Imperial Palace, the king of Duokai Kingdom ordered ordinary people to work overtime to complete what they believed to be a welcoming preparation for Zhongli's inspection, even in the absence of precise knowledge of when Zhongli would arrive. Even though Zhongli might not see these road renovations or newly planted trees, or might give them no more than a fleeting glance, the king of Duokai Kingdom insisted that these ordinary people forego their holiday and work urgently. "I can't even peacefully enjoy the new year, can I?" Zhongli lamented. He wanted to help these ordinary people complete their tasks and let them go home for the new year, only to find they were too numerous. If he helped them all, the new year would be over by the time he finished. So, he went to the royal city of Duokai Kingdom. The royal city of Duokai Kingdom was, of course, much more prosperous and lively than other cities, with countless spring festival couplets, lanterns, and characters of fortune. However, Zhongli could no longer enjoy the New Year atmosphere like he did before. Chapter 219, Boring Performance. "Brother, I noticed everyone is in a hurry to go over there. Is there a New Year's performance that's so captivating?" Zhongli saw many people, families in tow, heading towards the city center. He used his divine sense to find out that there was a New Year's performance by the Ducheng Kingdom going on, so he stopped a passerby to ask about it. The passerby didn't seem annoyed and was happy to answer Zhongli's question. "Judging by your accent and appearance, you're not from here, are you?" The passerby said with pride, "The New Year's performance in our Ducheng capital city is unmatched. All these people, they're from other cities, specifically here to watch the performance. My name is Zitongshin. It seems you're on your own, why not join us?" Perhaps it was Zitongshin's nature or maybe it was due to the new year, but he was very enthusiastic and invited Zhongli to join his family. "Let's go take a look." Zhongli nodded. As there were too many people watching the performance, it was impossible to see clearly from afar. Hence, the officials set up 8 large mirrors synchronized with the stage performance and used sound-amplifying magic artifacts so that everyone could see and hear clearly. The current performance was a song. It was neither a widely popular folk song, nor a festive song suitable for the holiday atmosphere, and it certainly wasn't the latest work from a famous composer. Who can contend with the human emperor for 500 years? The strongest throughout history, a role model for cultivators. This was a song praising Zhongli. Some parts didn't rhyme, as though it was hastily put together. There was a lot of applause from the audience, perfectly timed, as if they had rehearsed it. "Even at New Year, we can't forget the human emperor," Zitongshin explained awkwardly. Even he felt it was unconvincing, as if his words weren't connecting. After just praising his country's performance, it dropped the ball. This didn't happen in previous years, did it? Well said. As citizens of the 9 provinces and subjects of the emperor, we must always remember the human emperor's benevolence in battling the heavenly demons to save mankind. A nearby spectator stated, thinking that the performance on the stage was excellent. Zhongli remained silent, continuing to watch the performance. The next act was a skit purporting the call of the imperial palace that everyone should strive to increase the coverage of cultivators, aiming to let more ordinary people become cultivators. The audience continued to clap thunderously and laugh heartily, as if they were genuinely amused. Zhongli didn't find the skit funny, and neither did Zitongxin's family. They felt out of place with the world, as if they were the only ones not amused. It's normal to have one or two mediocre performances sporadically. Tongxin grumbled, insisting that tonight's performance was entertaining. That's where you're wrong, this skit is not ordinary at all. It talks about the imperial palace's requirements, demonstrating its allegiance to the palace. This stance alone makes the skit stand out. Combined with the hilarious punchlines, it's definitely worthy of being considered top-notch. The same spectator disagreed with Zitongxin's statement, rebutting his point of view. Top-notch? Are you joking? Zitongxin doubted his own ears. No joke, I'm being serious. The spectator replied decisively. Zitongxin shook his head, thinking the man was beyond reason. Sir, what do you think of the skit? The spectator turned to ask Zhongli. Zhongli stayed silent. After that skit, came another one. The next one was about a couple arguing over their treatment towards a spiritually aware artifact due to responding to the imperial palace's call. The wife insisted that artifacts were just objects and there was no need to treat them well, causing a series of hilariously embarrassing incidents. Finally, the son came home from the academy and explained to his mother, saying the spirit artifacts hugely helped humans and the palace encouraged everyone to treat spirit artifacts well according to the spiritual treasure law of the Great Zhou and the artifact contract of Dao sect. The mother saw the light and finally understood that an artifact's life was also a life, starting to treat the spirit artifact kindly. The son then dramatically said, "Mom, Dad, it's New Year, let's make dumplings together." The parents echoed, "Yes, making dumplings together." The script ended on a high note with the family's bond being reaffirmed. Again, the applause from the audience was thunderous. Zhongli didn't want to watch any more of these performances. It felt like a waste of his time. Zitongxin stopped defending ardently and instead squatted on the ground in embarrassment. Zhongli noticed that the same few people always clapped and laughed. It wasn't a large group of people, but their noise level could easily be mistaken for that of a large crowd. People like this were generally called shills. Brother, you have to believe me, the performances from previous years weren't this embarrassing. Zitongxin said, unaware that the nearby spectator was looking at him like he was a dead man. I believe you. Zhongli indeed believed him. He could tell the performances seemed rushed, with a clear theme prioritized. If they could be artistic, that would be great, but if not and the performance was bland, it didn't matter, as the atmosphere was being artificially induced. The atmosphere isn't the same without an enjoyable performance. The performances of the other cities are better than the capital's. Zitongxin sighed, wanting to take his wife and child home. I think this year's performance is the best one yet. The spectator persisted with his opinion. Not only does it promote the philosophy of the imperial palace and respond to the call, but it's also teaching people while entertaining them. It's killing two birds with one stone. What's the use of other cities' performances apart from a cheap laugh, given they lack a central theme? Zitongxin didn't care to respond to the man anymore. Educational content during the New Year's celebration, what a joke. Don't rush home, you've drawn attention to yourself. You might find that you've been stabbed 7 times according to the coroner's report tomorrow, with the cause of death being suicide. Zitongxin angrily replied, Brother, even if I made you watch a boring performance, you shouldn't curse me like that. I'm not cursing you, you've really caught someone's attention. Because you kept complaining about the dull performance while next to me, you're now on someone's radar. Zhongli explained, since the situation arose because of me, naturally, I'll ensure your family's safety. Zhongli turned to the nearby man and said, Isn't that right, Du Chongqing? Lupin, the man who had been insisting the performance was good, froze. Sir, I think you've recognized the wrong person. Zhongli scoffed, You seem to have a lot of confidence in your ability to mask your aura, think you've managed to deceive even me. Only then did Du Chongqing Lupin have to admit his identity, Your Majesty's sight is truly keen, I am Lupin. However, I'm not that type of person who would harbor murderous intentions. Is that so? So the hint of murderous intent I sensed earlier was nothing but my imagination. Lupin remained silent. Zitongxin's family was stunned, hardly able to believe the content of the conversation between the two men. Based on their conversation, one of them was supposed to be the human emperor and the other the king, and the king was planning to kill them simply because they thought the performance was boring. The new year wasn't an occasion for such jokes. Chapter 220. The Imperial Palace is not for the service of the human emperor. Happy Year of the Tiger, an edition for book friend General Lu. Lu Pin, what do you think are the requirements for becoming the leader of the Imperial Palace, besides maintaining a neutral position? Zhang Li asked gently, his tone casual, as if he were chatting with a friend. But he had an air of undeniable authority, akin to a superior assessing a subordinate. Amped up by the magic artifact designed for sound amplification, the noise on stage was so loud that Zhang Li's voice could barely be heard. However, to Zi Tongxin, it seemed as if Zhang Li was the only person in the world, and the performance on stage and the emperor were merely a backdrop. Lu Pin felt the same way, even sensing immense pressure from Zhang Li. Loyalty to the human emperor is also required. Lu Pin bravely replied, to show my support for you, I've modified the original performance plan, adding extra programs and promoting your views through the show. And do you think the people enjoyed it? They somewhat enjoyed. Really, my divine sense tells me that a third of the audience has left after 3 performances. Can you guess why they left? Lu Pin did not know how to answer this question. He couldn't tell the truth, nor could he lie, so he remained silent. Answer me. Zhang Li's voice suddenly increased by 8 octaves. Stammering, Lu Pin said, they couldn't appreciate these performances. Who could then? Ordinary folks who enjoy educational pursuits during the festival. Your performance was merely propaganda, who do you expect to watch it? Even I can't bear to watch such performances. Art is unique and lofty, it's normal if most people don't get it. Lu Pin stubbornly countered, refusing to admit his mistakes. Really, you think being lofty and understanding less is commendable? Zhang Li sneered, everyone dislikes the show, you call this art, do you have a conscience when you say this? And what about those craftsmen who are still working during the festival? Have you thought about who they are working for once they finish? For you, what's the use if I watch it? Would it help you become the leader? Indeed, that was exactly what Lu Pin was thinking. When he found out he was a candidate for leadership, he wanted to showcase his well-governed state to Zhang Li, signifying his competence to take up the role. So he ordered the craftsmen not to return home and to finish their work before Zhang Li's arrival. That way, Zhang Li could see a clean, tidy and well-planned Duokai kingdom, leaving a good impression on him. However, he suddenly found out that a road within the Duokai kingdom had been unexpectedly completed. Hearing the craftsman talk about the good-hearted monk's methods, he knew this was something that could only be achieved by someone in the body integration realm. His gut told him that this monk was none other than Zhang Li. He realized that this meant Zhang Li was dissatisfied with him, otherwise, he wouldn't have stepped in to help the craftsman. He had made a massive blunder. So he waited early by the stage in the royal city for Zhang Li, hoping to remedy his negative impression in Zhang Li's mind through the performance. Indeed, Zhang Li came. Zhang Li's charisma was too conspicuous, it was not hard to spot him if you looked carefully. To his irritation, an ordinary citizen named Zi Tongxin kept criticizing the night's performance, saying how boring it was, how unimpressive it was. It infuriated him to the point where he even harbored murderous intent. Ignorance. How could they understand the king's hardship? What was wrong with tonight's performance except for no laughter-inducing performance? He even argued, trying to convince them that the performance was enjoyable, full of depth and connotations. Zi Tongxin didn't agree, and to Lu Pin's despair, even Zhang Li didn't agree. Lu Pin, you actually thought you could sacrifice the interest of the people for my approval? Would you accept such treatment if you were a commoner, a mortal? Zhang Li was outraged, fearing there would be endless trouble if an individual like Lu Pin were allowed to enter the imperial palace as a leader. The damage Lu Pin could do was similar to the kind Dong Wuwei could do. They failed to realize that the imperial palace was not created to serve them, but to serve Jojo. Having cultivated to the Mahayana realm, he did not need faith or resources. What could they possibly help him with? There was a fundamental flaw in their thinking. He didn't need the leaders to be sycophantic. The 5 leaders understood this, they even pointed out where they thought he was wrong. Even though it was proven later that Zhang Li was right. Among the 3 options proposed by leader Lu, 2 were utterly unsuitable and 1 was on the margin of being unsuitable. Zhang Li suddenly realized how exceptional his 5 leaders were. So what if they were a bit dim-witted and ate a lot, took pleasure in inappropriate things, tended to be gloomy, or liked to act saintly? These were all minor issues. What else was leader Lu unsatisfied about? People are always aggrieved by comparison, Zhang Li mused. Lu Pin, admit your mistake. Zhang Li pushed him to this point. If he still refused to admit his mistake, then he was truly ungrateful. Zhang Li had rarely seen the emperor so serious and angry. Probably only when discussing the means used by the external heavenly demon at Jojo conference had he exhibited such an attitude. Zi Tongxin felt inexplicably relieved watching this scene. However, this relief was quickly replaced by fear. The emperor had said that if the emperor held a grudge against him, would he live to see tomorrow? If anything happens to their family, I'll hold you responsible. Zhang Li pointed a finger at Zi Tongxin, effectively granting him a protection charm. Lu Pin trembled with fear. He understood that from now on, he not only couldn't act against Zi Tongxin, but he also had to ensure the safety of Zi Tongxin's family and prevent any accidents. And those craftsmen, they do have a duty to work, but they shouldn't be working during the new year. You should let them go home right away. Yes, Zhang Li's mood was somewhat ruined by all this during what was supposed to be a festive season. With his hands behind his back, he left. Feeling dispirited as the cold wind brushed his face in the open air, his remote communication talisman suddenly lit up. Hall Master, where are you right now? Leader Lu contacted Zhang Li. In the eastern parts of Jojo, what happened? Zhang Konggu poked his head out from the side. Brother Zhang, come back to the Imperial Palace for the new year. Everyone is here. Leader Lu adjusted the angle of the communication talisman and indeed all 6 leaders were gathered in the Imperial Palace. The dining table was filled with mouth-watering delicacies and the main seat was vacant. Yes, yes, the usually melancholic leader Huang broke into a rare smile. Kong who went home to Great Witch Country to spend New Year's with his family in advance, just so he could spend it at the Imperial Palace with Brother Zhang. Weren't we supposed to keep this a secret? Zhang Konggu was filled with embarrassment and outrage and pretended to hit Huang, regenerating chaos. Its noise echoed with laughter. We don't have any relatives, might as well stay in the Imperial Palace. The couple Ma Zhou laughed. We prepared the New Year's Eve dinner. Brother Zhang, you're the only one missing. Wood leader said. All right, I'm coming back. Zhang Li replied nonchalantly without noticing that a couple of tears had trickled down his face. Neither did he realize that the leaders didn't mention it. They acted as if they hadn't seen it. The moment Zhang Li agreed, he shed 2 lines of clear tears.